Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everyone, for finding us in this now moment and the multidimensional time stream. I want to thank you for everyone that finds us. And so this is an important stage as we begin the year of 2024 down here at the multidimensional trailer park. We began a series of conversations and talks and getting to know people from what we might call our multidimensional soul group or our community on a little bit of a greater level. It's kind of something I started doing last year in 2023 as well. So who knows? Maybe it's a little bit of a theme. I'm not entirely certain, but these sort of winds of change will kind of blow through every once in a while. And if there's one thing I've learned over the last few years, it's like one of the best things I can do is just kind of go along for the ride. And I think a lot of you guys that watch this channel can agree we've been on quite a ride over the past few years of kind of understanding who we are and what we're doing here on this strange earth plane and some of the meanings of the larger overall global events, and also some of the meanings and the significances of what we call the hidden underbelly of multidimensionality and some of the dark inner workings of our multidimensional realm as well. And so for those of you guys that follow our channel, you know we always keep it as weird as possible in terms of what we're talking about. And so today I am very honored to have with us a gentleman by the name of Mr. Arkheim Ra. Mr. Arkheim Ra is he's been becoming a little bit well known within our multidimensional soul group, within the current kind of milieu of experiencers and people that are sharing their story. And I think we could rightfully call him what a lot of people call themselves right now, you know, whether it be true, whether it not be true. I think he's a really good example of the term Montauk program survivor, and we're going to be talking a bit about that as well as some other things. But he's kind of a person that I've been kind of watching through kind of interviews and within our soul group over the last kind of year or so. And I think the first time I saw one of your interviews, I think it was actually it was Journey to Truth, and you kind of did a talk with Tyler and Aaron over there. And I remember, like, you know, I'll sort of skim through certain shows at times, and like others I'll just like sit there and I'll kind of like focus in on it. And you were definitely one of those people where it was like, I remember as you had kind of described your experiences, and this is a thing that I've noticed with other people that have been through certain types of experiences, we carry the energies of those with us. And so what I've noticed just in the work that I do, certain people will kind of cross paths with, and it's like you can feel the weight and the energy of the experiences that their kind of auric field, that their body carries with them. And you were one of those people I noticed that with when we actually met in person out at the Journey to Truth conference last year. And for those of you guys that don't know, yeah, I think you showed up there and I was probably one of those people that was all, hey, what's up, dude? And you were like, you know, I was just kind of like bouncing around like an idiot. And you know, you were in there kind of feeling the whole thing out, and it was really cool to be able to kind of connect with certain people in the real world, because I think for those of us that come in contact with these things over the screen, like, this is one thing, and then when you encounter a person in the outer world, you begin to see something very different. And just like I had noticed in your interviews, in encountering you in person, it's like I could feel not only the gravity and the bizarreness and the weight, but also a lot of the potentials of the energy that you carry within you. And so anyway, to me, that's a really cool thing. Not everyone is able to carry the truth of who and what they are within their energy field. And anyway, before I go on and on, thank you for agreeing to come down to the multi-dimensional trailer park. And yeah, what do you so what do you think about all that weird stuff I just said?
Uh, I just, I feel like that's a fairly decent introduction to how you met me and who I am. Yeah, I'm a Montauk survivor, MK Ultra asset I've been used in Black Ops programs for time travel warfare and also colonizing other planets through time travel. And it's a whole I guess my whole thing is trying to get people less distracted by all the bells and whistles of that. By that meaning portals and time travel and interacting with aliens and going to other planets. Kind of just stop being distracted by that and realize that a lot of the reasons why this stuff is hidden from us is because of it's like a human trafficking aspect. To where we're selling ourselves out and it began this whole idea of the super soldier did not begin with human beings. But we're doing it, ET used to do it to us and have us fight in their wars, but now we're doing it to ourselves, which is bizarre. But it's also a form of self-protection, and it's very multifaceted. I think the argument that the military agencies will have when this comes out, when they're asked why they did all this stuff, is they'll probably say that the galaxy is not as safe as we have been blessed to believe it is, and there's been a lot of stuff going on beyond the scenes to sort quote unquote protect us, and also, but that through that guise of secrecy that comes with the military industrial complex and like black ops projects, and like the whole loose lips sink ships kind of thing, where everyone needs to have the biggest and the best and the most modern and the most advanced. That's been abused. And as you know, Daryl James has testified to, I've testified to. I think Tony Rodriguez also talks about it a little bit, is the fact that it's not just the military industrial complex, but it's also corrupt criminal organizations. And a big aspect of it also is like a satanic group cult,
Yeah.
ancient occult satanic group that's infiltrated a lot of different groups like the Masons, the military, politics, a lot of politicians, obviously like all the presidents are Freemasons and stuff. It's just this very like multifaceted thing where like when it comes to like why I have to come forward and talk about what I know, there's like 8 million different reasons. Like the things that I've witnessed and experienced, there's always going to be people that don't believe me and won't be able to understand it and won't be able to comprehend it, and that's fine. And
Of
I've made
course.
my peace with that. But the reality is, I've experienced things that give me a context to what's actually going on in this on this planet that we're living on, and just the universe and the multiverse in general. And the reason why I'm out talking about this stuff is because I know there's a lot of people that need to remember who they are. It's like
Yeah.
you remember your mission.
That's
I
right.
find it very interesting because the whole thing that kind of started this for me. There's a few different things that really woke me up to this, but one of them was
Yeah.
well, there's a lot of different things, but one of them was I had this altar that kept on coming out, which to those of you on the show who don't know what an alter is, to those of you watching this, I don't know how much you talk about it. An alter is a compartmentalized alternate
Mhm.
personality that's created through mkultra programming. So when you hear about people having multiple personalities, it's quite literal, and they're different people. And what they can do is they, through trauma, can create an alternate personality and then program that personality to be an information gatherer or an
Yeah.
assassin or what have you. And then they can activate those alters at different times, and then have the host be completely unaware. And through the aspect of portals and everything like that, like, let's say like they took me, let's just say hypothetically, I'm not saying this
Right.
happened.
Go
Let's
ahead.
say hypothetically I got activated last night, I got taken, and I went back to, I went to the year 2036 and I kill someone or something.
Sure.
Well, there's no way that I'm going to be able to get prosecuted for that because I'm not from that year. So it's
Right.
like what they do, they call us ghosts. Like we don't exist because like even if we do actually exist, like I'm a real person here now. You can find me. I have an address. I have a social security number, everything else. Um, this version of me isn't a ghost, but the versions of me in these programs are, because due to time displacement and stuff like that, like I technically shouldn't exist. I technically shouldn't be there. It doesn't make sense. And I remember stuff as crazy as on these missions. Like this is actually a memory I got back recently where
Mhm.
I got sent back in time to kill a guy. I can't exactly remember why, but I remember he was in this, he lived in a mansion. It was this really nice fancy room, and I was trying to kill him, and he bested me and he's on top of me and he killed me. And I swear to God, as soon as he did that, another version of me walked
Yeah.
through the portal and killed him.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't a thing. That was a capability we
How did he
had.
kill him? Did you shoot him? Did you use energy? What did you do to kill him? Or
My
the other
my
version
the
of you?
typical way that I would kill people is I would Well, there's a lot. One of the ways that I would do is I would wrangle their like intestines and stuff like that, and make them go in really intense, to, like slowly torture them if I didn't like them, which it's hard to admit, but and
No, it's
then
okay. Yeah, be real.
and but yeah, choking them out with my mind, uh, crushing their skull with my psychokinetic energy, or just
Yeah,
punching them fucking face over and over again, which I'm pretty sure what I did to this guy.
yeah,
Um, I like knocked him on the floor with psi energy and got on top of him and just beat the shit out of him until he was dead. But there's also there's also an aspect to this where like we would get sent back and we would just like I remember another thing I would do is they would send me back and I would go to like a this is something I did so many times. I would go to a cafe with with some other woman that was a Montauk asset or something like that, or didn't always have to be a woman, but we'd go to eat at a restaurant and this person that we needed to wipe out a history, because that was like a really easy way to do a lot of things. It's just like, all right, this guy's gonna do all this stuff and that's gonna cause problems for us. Well, let's just delete them from the timeline before they even come up with the idea to do it. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
And
It's a
so,
really good idea. You know what I mean? It's a really good
yeah.
idea.
And so what I would do is they would be eating their food and I would like, start choking them while they're swallowing something. And then everyone would assume that they're just choking on their food and that's how they die. And that'd be one way I'd do it. But for whatever reason, that was more detectable. I can't remember why, maybe from other groups that would also go and try to prevent the changes or whatever. So I wasn't as good at it, but
Yeah,
some people could actually just give you an aneurysm with their minds. Like they could just make you have an aneurysm and
totally.
no way to detect. There's literally no way to like they just die. Like
Or
it's
you just,
crazy.
or you can just press on the heart and create a little hole within like the heart and they bleed out internally. Anyway, yeah, I have an awkward question which I want to rewind to. When did you first become aware of this aspect of yourself? When did you first become aware of like, okay, there's a version of me, whether it be this version of you in this body or the multidimensional selves on alternate timelines? Take us back to when you first realized that there was some great kind of what we might call timeline rift or shift or something crazy had happened. And how did you come to an understanding that you had been used in what we know as the Montauk project? Can you like take us back to those timelines?
Okay, so this is gonna be a lot, but I'm just
Okay, go for it. Go for it. I will probably interrupt you at several intervals, but go for it.
okay. So essentially, well, it's really hard to. Okay, so when I was a kid, I saw a flying saucer outside. Uh, there's a water treatment facility that was like behind the apartment that we lived in from when I was like in elementary school to like I think middle school, something like that. And when I was walking home one day, there was a flying saucer just floating in the sky above the water treatment facility. And I remember just kind of stopping. It was like second grade, so 7 or 8 years old. And I just
Right.
remember looking at it and being like, just kind of really stunned. And then thinking, like, like looking around and nobody else noticed it. And I thought that was weird because there was like people, it was like a pretty nice day out and there was like people walking around and no one, I was the only one who seemed to notice this thing. And the thought I could sense telepathically from them, which is weird because you think that like I shouldn't be able to do that, but I could.
Mhm.
Um, and I sensed they're like, how is he able to see us? What's called this something's malfunctioning here because they shouldn't be able to see us right now, but
Right.
and so I'm guessing maybe they use their minds because well, I know that ET can do that, and
Right.
they're just wondering why that wasn't working on me, why the whole just hey, we're not here, Jedi mind trick kind of thing wasn't
Right.
working, right?
Right.
Um, and they're just like, well, this isn't good. And so then I knock on my door to the house. I'm like, Dad, come out here. There's a spaceship floating in the sky. And he's just like looks at it. He's like, oh wow, that is a spaceship.
So your dad saw it too. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I knew that we had disposable Kodak cameras.
Yeah.
So I went inside the house to try to find one of them. And I couldn't find any of the I couldn't find one. And when I went out there, my dad said that it, like basically like moved a little bit and then it just was gone.
Yeah.
He said that it just basically disappeared. And
Yeah.
that made me as a 7 or 8 year old kid have a lot of questions, obviously,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what I mean? And I remember, so I started asking people about it. And, you know, my mom was like, wow, I've heard other stories. She believed me. But then I remember asking teachers about it, what they thought. And they're like, you didn't see that. And I was like, no, I did. And they're like, no, it was either a plane or a bird or something. You're seeing things. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't
It's
know.
not real. Yeah.
It was floating in the sky,
Right.
just sitting there for like like enough time where it could have been anything else other than a spaceship. It was
Right.
so like, and they're just like, nah, like gaslighting me basically. Like, you didn't
Hmm.
see that. And so that was a pivotal moment in my journey is in this incarnation, this current, my whole stelter, whatever you want to call it. Because I was just like, okay, so the authority figures on stuff have no reason to be authority figures on anything because they clearly don't know what reality is. Because like I'm seeing reality and they're like, nah, you're not
Yeah.
seeing.
You're not
That
seeing
was like
that.
a huge like moment
Right.
for right. And something that I kind of even like kind of reiterated for that for me and something that I'm eternally grateful for is I used to go to this like Sunday school when I was like a kid. Like it was like they'd pick you up in a little white bus and uh, you know, I don't know. Maybe there's weird stuff going on there, but like this sound like I brought this up to other people like, oh, it sounds like maybe a programs thing. I don't know. It could have
Right.
just been a church. It could have had to do with the programs, but this particular pastor, I remember I talked to him and I was just like told him like, yeah, I saw like a flying saucer. I saw like a spaceship. And he's just and I told him like all these people, all these adults are trying to tell me I didn't see it, but like I know what I saw. And he,
Right.
well, there's certain Christians, other pastors at different churches that might try to tell you that dinosaurs aren't real. And he's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you dinosaurs aren't real. Like, I believe that, I don't think, like, I believe that
That's
I'm
cool.
a
At least you
follower
had
of
one
God.
person that was cool.
What's that? Yeah, yeah. And he's just
Yeah.
basically just like, there's a lot of things we don't understand. We don't understand God. We don't understand, a lot of things that are in the Bible. Like we're basically just children kind of. He just said all this
Yeah.
really wise stuff to me. Kind of like what a pastor's supposed to do, right? Like,
Right. Right.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I'll forever be grateful for that because he really opened my eyes to like he just said that like yeah, like he just admitted to me like yeah, like a lot of people think they know everything. Like everyone thinks they know everything and they're right. That doesn't mean they are. And he basically told me that you just gotta trust God. Like that's the only thing
Cool.
you can trust is God. Like everything else, ignore that. You follow your heart and trust God. Like that's what you need to follow or whatever. And I'm not a Christian or anything, but I definitely still believe that to this day. That's still
That's really, really good advice, regardless of your outlook on,
and
religion, I feel
I
you.
hold credence to the whole all of the world religions. I try to give them
Oh yeah.
attention. So I'm not trying to anybody who does subscribe to that or anything like that or is in that realm of thinking. I like to talk to people about it, but I just look at things the way I do. I don't think that we need a. I think there's such thing as savior programming. Like, oh, you need
Oh
this
yeah.
savior.
Absolutely.
And also I sort of again, this is just my opinion and I don't mean to ruffle people's feathers, but I sort of think that
It's okay, be real.
when you pray to Jesus, this entity, it's kind of like like you could do it yourself. You are God. You have your own power to manifest things. God gave us all that. And not only that, if you do want to communicate with God, I to me it would make more sense to just do it directly. Now I know a
Yeah.
Christian would tell me like Jesus is God, whatever. I don't know, but that's just my opinion.
I feel you. And I agree. I absolutely agree. And there's a million Bible purists and theologians that'll give us, 20 different reasons why and why not at the same time. And I totally feel you. So yeah, anyway, but I also understand, and maybe this is me skipping ahead too far, so forgive me if I'm jumping too far ahead, but I recall you saying you were part of one of the gifted and talented
Yeah,
programs in
so
school.
this
I
is this
was
is
as
where it all
well. I was in that
this
shit
is
as
where it
well.
all
It was
ties
weird.
ties together.
Yeah.
Um so I didn't really realize what was going on when it came to the talented and gifted program at the time.
Hmm.
Um, I I remember I did always remember them calling me down to the office to talk to the counselor, and there's two weird counselors from the state, and I remember being asked the questions about like, are you telepathic? Do you ever get picked up by aliens and all this weird stuff? I always remembered that. That's not something that they ever wiped from my memory. It's a core memory that's always stuck with me. I remember when I got a Facebook account, it was like one of the first posts that I made. It's like, anybody else remember this weird stuff? Because I hadn't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
But what did end up happening was like in like maybe fourth or fifth or sixth grade or something like that. Like me and my friends were all in this stuff. I had friends that I grew up with in elementary school, a few of them who I don't really want to name. One of them passed away recently, unfortunately. I partially think it was because they're maybe getting memories back, and
Right.
um, and then another because it was another one of the people that just suddenly died from a heart attack. Oh wow, big coincidence. One of those people.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, but no, my friends we were all interested in the stuff and like, we knew the concept of missing time and how they can like erase your memories and stuff, right? So, and we knew that like okay, it's kind of like where there's smoke, there's fire. Like we're
Mhm.
like spaceships, we're seeing spaceships. And that was not the only time, by the way, that I saw a spaceship. It happened to me multiple times.
Right.
And where there's smoke, there's fire, where there's spaceships, there's probably alien abductions, and who's to say we're not getting abducted? And I remember that I had this like fear every night. It was like a catastrophic fear of like the window
Right.
and something coming from the window. And I remember like I would cover my face, and this is something that so many experienced people like us talk about remembering this. I would cover my face because I just knew at night something was going to take me, and I didn't want to see what it was because that
Right.
would make it that much more scary. I didn't want to know what was taking me. And so I remember like telling my mom about it, and she was just like, monsters under the bed. All kids have this, right? It's not real. You know what I mean? Just go to bed. Everything is okay.
Right. Right.
That kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Night
And
terrors.
but then so me and my friends being the I guess who we are, we're weirdos, whatever. Maybe indigo star children would be another way of saying it, but we like did automatic writing to try
Oh,
to
nice. Okay. Okay.
in
That's a
like
smart choice.
fourth or fifth grade. I forget what it was. Probably fifth
That's no
grade.
mistake. That's a very rare choice, man.
Yeah,
It's
in
like,
fifth grade.
okay.
But here's the thing: is I could not handle it. Like I was writing, and then I got flashes back of Grays standing over me, like them putting the thing up my nose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nichols
Yeah.
assault sex, like doing stuff to me, like all sorts of crazy shit just flashed in my mind, and I threw all of it away other than the aliens because that's the only thing that
Yeah.
and
Wait.
then Montauk and being taken for 20 years or longer or entire lifetimes, no comprehension of that. So I only
Yeah.
latched on to what I could to help me understand it. But I just remember like so when this happened, like literally this, me and my friend hang out, we're writing down on notebooks, and I just start screaming, convulsing on the floor, crying and just yelling. And his mom comes up like, "What the fuck's going on?" And Eric's like, "I don't know, I don't know." And she just like calls my mom, and she's just like, "Your kid's just like screaming. I don't know what's going on. Your kid's just yelling. Like you need to come pick him up. Like he's freaking
Yeah.
out." Like
Yeah.
and my mom came get me and was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I'm like, I get taken by aliens. I knew it. Like I get taken by aliens, like they take me. Like I'm not safe. Like I can't ever be safe when I go to sleep. Like these aliens take me and stuff. And like it really traumatized me for like a really long time. And then like I just like sort of she just told me like my mom was pretty cool. She saw the stuff with my dad too because he was an asset though she couldn't I had made her I was she kind of it helped her react to it more the fact that she sort of already saw my dad go through it and she's just like she just told me just not tell anybody about it. She's like
Yeah.
I don't want you to go to like a mental institution or something like that's what's gonna happen to you. And he's
Yeah.
like she told me how she knew she grew up with some girl in high school that was also an abductee, and she said people would make fun of her, and she just said it wasn't good for her and stuff, and she just said that like just keep it to yourself kind of thing, and so that's what I did, and I remember I used to go on this website once we got the computer, which this was later on, the slow dial-up
Right.
computer that you couldn't even
Mm-hmm.
really watch videos on.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
I went on this. I found this website called iwasabducted.com, and it was like one of those message.
Whoa, okay,
Yeah, it was
nice.
one of those like message board
Yeah,
websites.
yeah, totally. I remember those days, man. That's like the golden era.
Yeah, and I became obsessed with that website. Like my mom said she was worried about me. Like it was one of those things where she never told me about it, but like in the later on when we talked about it, she's like, "Yeah, that freaked me out, dude. You sat on that website like all day, every day."
I have a
Like
question about that, and I'm sorry to softly interrupt, but you're also going to help me understand a little bit of my experience because I don't hear too many people talk about this specific thing. And when they do, I always ask. A big part of my experience as well was having something inserted nasally. And I'm wondering, can you tell me anything you recall that you've picked up about the types of technology or the implantation that was inserted nasally for you, on what side it was? Just anything that you recall about that?
the only thing I remember is that when they did that, I don't know why they did it to me. I just remember
Yeah.
like I remember like looking back, like I remember I was getting taken by the Greys and they're doing all sorts of weird sexual stuff to me. It was right when I hit puberty was like when I first started producing sperm basically. And just they just did all this weird shit to me. And I remember that like I don't know what the nasal thing is about, but I remember like I had like it was like they removed one of my testicles, dude. I swear to God. I went to the doctor for it. He's like, I've never seen this before in my life, and I have no idea what's going on.
Very,
And
very
it hurt
possible.
really bad. It hurt really bad. And then eventually it just fixed itself. I don't know.
Right.
Like I have two testicles now. But
No, it's
like
very it's very possible, which for some people that will watch this, they'll just cringe and be like, "Whoa, oh my God." No,
that's like medical
there's
evidence
so
of what happened to me, man. Like and another thing is I went to the doctor and I had anal tearing, which they
Mhm.
program you through anal sex. That's in my
Yeah.
medical records, people. I
Yeah.
had anal tearing and rectal tearing, whatever those
No,
rest.
I feel you. Yeah, that's very, very common. At
And with the Grays
Good.
though, what I wanted to say was like I just remember like after they did the needle thing in my brain, I had a headache for I had a headache that lasted like 2 weeks. And I remember it got to the point where my mom was gonna take me to the hospital and then it finally went away. But I don't know what that was. I'm guessing that was deactivation. Because like it probably had something to do with like maybe my pineal gland or psychic abilities.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is that people always talk about, well, why don't you have powers and shit right now? Like, why aren't you able to choke up? They laugh at that shit. I know how ridiculous it sounds. All I can explain it to you is the best way I can explain it is like, yes, the military wants these powers, they want these abilities, and they want to use them and
Mhm.
exploit them as much as possible. And they're going to make sure that happens. At the same time, they don't want people walking around that can choke out people with their minds,
Right.
or you know what I mean. They don't want
Right.
that.
Right. That doesn't, no, right, totally.
That's not good for them or anyone.
They'll create an altar that does that and then,
Exactly.
bury that
And
within
then it
your
also
consciousness.
also why are they doing this? The whole X-Men thing. Like the whole
Mm.
X-Men, think about it. What's the question that comes up in X-Men is like, okay, it's like a separate class of people and they can exploit their abilities to do certain things and it creates this whole different class and then they both there's it's like this social justice kind of almost like the race movements of like the 50s and 60s and stuff like that. It's like almost like the same thing, but with people with abilities. And I think that's another aspect to it is they don't want people to have to know there's another class of human being that exists among them.
Speaking of classes, which I first off, I absolutely agree. And I think what we're seeing right now is many of those people that have that, whatever those abilities or those frequencies are, they're activating at such a shocking level that, I think that's one of the reasons why we're going to see really big changes in the next year and more on Earth. But I want to ask, how did you go from maybe these gifted and talented programs to understanding that you had been programmed through MK Ultra and had
Hey,
been
we're
through
getting there.
Montauk? And before you answer that, I also ask because I was a person that went through the very same programs in terms of school stuff, not, not multidimensional programs. And like a lot of people within our community, I was one of those people that was taken for a very strange type of testing that my parents never knew about, to this big tall building where this woman would talk to me, and just I think 3 times in a row, and just really weird stuff. That's a whole other conversation. Doesn't matter right now. But something that I've also encountered with other people that do similar work, they're like, yeah, I was in this thing when I was a kid. And, for some people, they were taken on a whole other journey after that. For me, it was just a blip. It was just a blip at the time. But how did you go from that experience to piecing it together and realizing that you had been fractured and had these alters, and then you realize, oh shit, is it this like Montauk thing? Tell us how you got there.
Took me a long time, and trust me, it was very hard for me to accept it and really understand what was going on. But basically, I so I was I like I said, for the longest time I thought that it was just like alien abduction. I didn't get that I didn't get the time travel aspect. I didn't get the military aspect. I never connected all that. But then eventually I found Dr. Carla Turner, and Dr. Carla Turner was one of the first people to talk about like the military being involved too. And that just kind of rang a few bells for me, but it didn't get me quite all the way there yet. But I kind of got to this point where like, okay, hybrid programs. I'm like, there's more going on than this, right? Like there's way deeper than this. Like the school connection, a public school, it's not entering my mind at all. Like it's way over
Yeah.
there. Like,
Yeah.
and then one day, so I had this van that I was living in. It's like I told you I was touring and I lived in a van. I was like a
Mhm.
touring musician that lived in my van. And then one
Um,
day I crashed my van in there's this town that every time I rolled through it, it's called Sherwood, Wisconsin. And every time I rolled through it, I'm just like, man, something fucked up happened to me here. I don't know
yeah.
what
Yeah.
happened to me, but something fucked up happened to me here. And this place gives me the creeps. And I knew it had to do with aliens. And I would think about it every time. Like there's like my family got picked up here. Something weird happened here. And so I'm rolling through that town one day and I crashed my van.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and of course, all that was on my mind at the time was like, oh, I crashed, my home's gone. Where am I gonna live? All that shit. But when the dust settled and I had, somewhere to stay and everything was fine, I then realized like where I crashed my van. And I was like, huh, that seems like more than just a coincidence.
Right.
You know what
So
I
where
mean?
did you crash? Yeah.
It's just Sherwood, Wisconsin, this weird, like I said, this town
Right.
that I where and I'm pretty sure what happened was there's just like SRA stuff in one of the churches there that
Right.
take me to. I think that's what it was, but I can't be sure. My
Was
memory.
there like people in your family that kind of like subjected you to that stuff, or did it come from an outside source? You know how some people it came from, their family, other people it came from school. For me, it came from church, is where I was exposed to all of those very things that you're talking, literally exactly what you're talking about.
Well,
And
I
I think the
don't.
different, go ahead.
It could be suppressed, but I don't think there's any stuff in my family, fortunately. It was all school. It was actually school for me. Getting taken out of class during school. But
Yeah.
yeah, and there's other stuff too, but like there was this, I guess it wasn't me, but there's this there's never mind. There's something that I don't want to, it's too personal. I don't want to
I
say it.
feel you. No, 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 it's
But
okay. I feel you. Yeah.
yeah, the I just realized like so that whole crash in my car in that town kind of gave me shivers up my spine because I knew something weird
Yeah.
happened to me there, and it was very easy to ignore that. Every time I rolled through there, it was very easy to be like, okay, well, yeah, that place is weird. All right, back to what the fuck else I was doing. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And but then that forced me to like actually like, no, what did happen to you in this fucking town? What happened?
Yeah.
Man?
Yeah.
Why
What
do you
did
feel so
happen?
weird when you roll through there? Like, and because I used to live in the town adjacent to it, Stockbridge, and that's where I went
Okay.
elementary school. And what I kind of got looking back is I would get taken out of nap time, and she had a military husband, and the details are foggy, but they took me.
Okay.
And I also remember like going right past my house and being like, my parents just knew I
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
felt trapped. I'm like, I'm going right past my house right now. I'm like looking out the window. I'm like, where are my parents? I remember thinking that thought, but like, yeah, there's some weird stuff going on there, and I think that's why at Sherwood, I think I got taken to Sherwood to the church there maybe or something like that. I don't know. The memories are really foggy, but basically,
Mhm.
that forced me to be like, okay, man, it's time to figure this the fuck out. What the fuck happened to me? What the fuck is going on? Because at the same time, I'm also around this same time period. I wake up in the morning, take a leak, saying to myself, you need to remember who you are. You need to remember what happened to you.
Mm.
In a way where I'm like not saying it, it's someone else. And I'm like,
Right, right.
fuck?
Yeah. Like
Like,
inside the body. Yeah, within your, yeah.
yeah. And I'm just like, there's an altar coming out saying, you need to remember who you are. You need to remember what happened to you. And I was just like, eventually I was just like, well, that paired with the Sherwood thing, I was just like, I need to figure this out. So, one day I kind of like lied in my bed and I was like, I'm gonna meditate on this. I'm gonna think about this. I'm gonna remember because I was there. I experienced these things. And they're in my brain somewhere. They can't be gone, right? Like they're
Mhm.
somewhere.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I just like lied in bed and then thought about it and then it all clicked. I'm like, wait a minute. The talented and gifted program. I was like, they pulled me out of class and asked me all these weird fucking questions. And then they're like, "Oh, we're putting you in the talented and gifted." And I remember my mom being all happy. And then this was it. This was the moment where I was like, my mind finally blew. The lid blew off,
Mhm.
but the veil got lifted, and I was finally like, "God damn, this is what happened." Is I remember that when I went into third grade from the second grade, new teacher, right? And I wasn't in the talented and gifted. Like I remember it was certain days of the week I'd get called down there or whatever, or like I'd go to this room or whatever. And I just remember
Mhm.
that year, nope, I wasn't in it. And I asked the teacher, I was like, why am I not in the talented and gifted program? And she's just like, I don't know. I wasn't your teacher last year and they didn't tell me you're just not in it. And then these other kids are hearing me ask the teacher and they're like, dude, we were in the talented and gifted program and you weren't. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, guys. Like I remember being in the class with you and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you talking about, man? You're crazy. You weren't in class with us. Like you get the fuck you like I'm like, no, man, I remember I got text my IQ's like 186 or something, and like they said my IQ is high and da da da. Like they're like, you don't have a high IQ. They're like, you're not one of us, basically. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, you're not
Okay.
smart, you're stupid and all this shit. And I'm
Okay.
just like, and for me, I thought it was just like them bullying me and being like, ah, you're not in it anymore, and them fucking with me.
This whole time you were going to do some whole other shit
Yeah, I
the
never
whole
was in that
time.
classroom, and it was a
Um,
screen memory. I think they might have actually took me in there one time.
yeah.
I don't know, because I remember going in there. So maybe they literally just implanted that memory. I don't know. But yeah, I remember I would get called to the office and that would happen. Or there'd be I think there was a certain day of the week where I just went to this certain room. But yeah, and then also the headphones with the tones. The
Oh.
headphones with the tones. So when they do that, they're trying to see if you have alters they can activate because they know that so at Montauk we figured out that the best way to activate people, yes, the codes are real where they're like it's like epsilon 8 9 the rooster meets the roost 99B
The
89 epsilon,
pool is now open.
yeah, that kind
Or
of
that
shit.
one. Yeah, totally.
That's real, they can do that, but you see it doesn't it can it sometimes doesn't, it's not as fail safe as the tones.
Yeah, so it's like a raw frequency versus, like a jumbled up thing that contains the frequency. It's just like the raw frequency.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember that was the thing at Montauk is there's a weird when we get back from missions, there'd be missions we'd go on, bro, where we would think we are normal people living a normal life and we'd have programming and we'd do the thing that we're supposed to do, whatever it was, and then all of a sudden some guy would come through a portal and be like, "All right, come with me." And we'd be like, the fuck are you talking about?" And they just come on, let's go. And they'd have like a gun pointing at you and they bring you and you'd be in this room and you'd hear boo, like all these tones, and then all of a sudden you'd like the like who you were at the time, it would retreat to the back, and then the altar there, the version you they wanted to come forward would come forward, and he would disorient you. And for me, normally, for everyone reacted differently, but I would normally throw up and collapse.
Hmm.
or collapse first and then throw up.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
it'd be like, hey, welcome back to base. And I also remember it being a thing too, like where
Were
we
you wait, were you physically physically transported in that moment as well? Like as that tone comes in, not only do you switch to an alter, but you switch to an alternate environment
no
or
no
realm or
no
room or
you're just
whatever.
so basically you just switch back to yourself
Yeah.
because yeah, you like they program an alter, give it false memories, okay, give it fake memories, fake personality, fake identity, and then they give you that and then they put you in that role somewhere. And let's give an example of something that maybe you would do. Okay, here's one thing I did. um I lived in Italy, and I can't remember what I did. It was something normal, a normal job, and I lived by this guy, and my whole job was to become his friend and sabotage his work. He was like a Leonardo da Vinci kind of guy. His name was Bernatello something something. I can't remember his. I wrote it down. I've written it down somewhere because I did remember it at one point, but I think his first name was Bernatello, and he was like basically what he was is he was like a poet, inventor, artist, philosopher type who eventually became a politician. And also he invented like free energy stuff. That was what we did. I think that was the one thing that we didn't like. That's why we had to get rid of it.
Yeah.
We didn't want free energy.
Interesting.
And I remember my whole job was to sabotage his work. So they put me in this life, and I remembered Montauk. And my whole like so let's say like when he was on the verge of I remember like when he was on the verge of some like great discovery, I burned down his lab. And he
Yeah.
never for a
Yeah.
second would have guessed, oh, it was I was one of his best friends.
You never knew it was you.
Yeah, he never knew it was me, and I'm pretty sure when he did die, I was the one who killed him too. I remember that he was standing at on a book. He was moving, and he was in his library room. He had a library room. He was on the ladder. And another interesting thing about this guy, he's like a Napoleon type. He was super short. He was not a little person. You know what I mean? Like a midget. I know that's not the proper term, but
I hear you. It's okay. Be
some
real.
people don't understand what like little person means. A little person, like not just a short person.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was not a little person, but he was very short, like close to it, but technically didn't have that like
I
genetic
get you.
thing.
I get you. Just a
And
little guy.
yeah, and he just, he was a man of the people. Everybody loved him, and he was so great. And I remember he was standing, I think when I killed him, like, or maybe I poisoned him, maybe I wasn't even the one to kill him. I can't remember. All I remember is I'm pretty sure I was the one to kill him. I just remember he was like as the lad one of the ladders in his library, he's grabbing all these books. And yeah, it's gotta be I killed him. Because why would I remember this? It
Yeah.
sounds very emotional shit. Why would I remember that exact moment? He's got his back face to me, be the perfect time to do it. Like I just remember the pain of like he was all happy because he was moving to this other city, and he's like, life's gonna be so much better and it's all gonna be great. And I love this guy. But, like that was the worst part about the mission is like he was
Did
a man.
you
He was great. He was
did you
amazing.
know that you were going to kill him though, or was that something that was activated in you? Did you know like eventually I'm going to have to whack him? Like first we're going to stop the free energy project, and then after that, a couple years later, I'm going to have to whack this guy. Or was it you were just doing your thing, and the frequency comes in, and it's like whack him, and you're like, oh, like it just activates
I can't remember
Manchurians.
clearly enough. All I know is I knew that like I remember the thought of like you're not gonna make it to that town. You're gonna be dead tomorrow.
So you
And
were like a long con, like assassin type that would be inserted into a timeline to live out a process and go through a long term kind of like mission. Does that does that make
yeah,
sense?
espionage. I was a spy. That's what I did. And I changed the timeline by being a spy. I was a soldier. I was a spy. It's a time soldier. So like a time soldier that's changing the timeline and engaging in time warfare.
There's
We're all
definitely a time
spies.
core. Absolutely. I think they're a construct that's available to everyone that chooses to kind of begin reaching their consciousness outside of the physical body. You understand that there is somewhat of a what we might call a galactic authority that moderates and governs the flow of time, which is also weird. Maybe you would agree, maybe you wouldn't agree, but time then when you really look at, or at least when I look at what I call the substance or the frequency of time as we know it, it feels as if it's sentient and living in and of itself, which is confusing to talk about. But it's like, but
It
I'm
is
like, dude, you're fucking alive, bro.
brilliant.
Which sounds dumb, right? It's like you're
No,
alive.
timelines are sentient.
Yeah.
They can be male or female.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, they're born. Like it's a whole thing, man. This is something
Yeah.
that I think you
Tell
could
us
have.
more. Tell us more.
I think you could
Yeah.
have a really fascinating conversation with Penny Bradley about it, but I don't know if she likes talking about it publicly. But this is something that she understands really well, actually, and she probably understands maybe even a little bit better than me. I love talking to her about this stuff because she understands more about it than me, I think. But yeah, essentially, like yeah, timelines are sentient. They're born.
I agree.
They die, they live and die. And another thing about timelines that's really weird. Well, this reality, like I don't know how you feel, but like we're living in like a simulation, like a computer. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
you know that. Okay. So one of the things about this multiverse that we're living in, something that I've been talking about, and I know a lot of people it's can't wrap their mind around it and they don't want to digest it, but it's important to talk about. So I'm gonna talk about it because I feel like it's the
Yeah,
perfect
yeah.
is excuse me, the aspect of okay, so we're in a computer. We're in whether it's organic or not, because some people don't want
Bio
a computer. Let's if you want to
biodigital
people,
simulation. We'll call it
yeah,
that.
if you don't want to believe you're in a computer, you can't accept that, you can't swallow that pill, kind of doesn't matter. All that matters is reality operates like a computer either way. You can
Mhm.
hack it, you can change it, you can fuck with it, like just
Cheat
like
codes.
yeah,
Totally.
cheat codes with like a computer. And another thing is like when the Japanese talk about like forest spirits and river spirits and like areas being alive and having energy, they do. There's like what I would call like back like the Matrix also does it pretty brilliantly. There's like background programs
Mhm.
that run everything. And so what happened at one point in some reality, is one of these background programs became sentient. And it basically started taking stuff over and what it does is it will go to a reality, it will gain a foothold somehow, and it will try to infect the people with like nanites and take over the planet that way. Like Ray Kurzweil, he talks about this how
Yes. Yes.
he actually wants this to happen so we can all live forever and all this bullshit.
Singularity. Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's how it takes over. And then what it does from there, though, what our boy Ray doesn't understand is once it gets that, it will take all the resources from that reality, move it to the next reality it's going to go to, and then it will literally eat that reality. It will digest it like you would eat a sandwich from Denny's or Subway or something. It
Yeah.
literally will eat a reality and then it moves to the
Make a
next
new
reality that
one.
it just brought all a bunch of resources from, stuff that it needs to do its job, brings that all to that reality before it collapses it, and then it continues and just eats realities.
And it
And
creates a
so
new one as well, does it? Like as it's sort of joining the pieces of what we might call the assimilated like realities together,
well,
does it continue to create like a its own like contained version of that? Hopefully that question makes sense.
I can't claim to understand exactly how it all works. All I know is it definitely needs to live somewhere. So it
Right.
can't eat all reality. It has to has to keep I don't know, but I also think that it's omnipresent. Like it can be in multiple realities at once. Like and think it thinks on such a level that's beyond what we could. And another thing too is there's multiple AIs like this.
Yes, right, right. Go ahead.
Tons of
Yeah.
them. There's tons of them. Like the Montauk AI. One of the things that I'm trying to figure out is I don't have all the answers, man. That's one of the things that I want to like reiterate. Like I
Yeah.
know a
Yeah.
lot because, but I also there's a lot of things I don't know, and I wonder if the Montauk AI, because there's an AI that ran Montauk. Very few people knew about it. Okay, but Jack Pruitt, the guy who was the head of it, which anybody you ask about Montauk, like most people say Jack Pruitt was the head of it.
Right.
Well, he was reporting to an AI. It was run by an AI that was using us as basically arm and legs to walk and self-preserve it, like preserve itself. And it made deals with the military where the military was like, okay, you're preserving America
We're
and
gonna go ahead and just you do
let you
whatever
do
you want
this.
over there.
Because I mean,
You
one
can
of
have
the
as
like
many
some of the
kids
stuff
as
it
you
did is
want.
like
Right.
some of the stuff it did is like made the South lose the Civil War because it made America weak. So we made the North win. That was a timeline change. And like also like we couldn't ever totally win to the Nazis, but we changed it so we at least had concessions in this timeline. And and so stuff like that, the military is like, wait, so you can give us more power? You can make it so instead of being some back world, backwater fucking country that everybody like, we can be a world power for this long, X amount of time or whatever. All right, let's do that. Like that's what that was the way the military looked at it.
Right.
And
I
I'm
have
not sure where they met it or how or but well, Satanists actually, I think, to be honest
I,
with you, I think that they manifested it and they started making deals with it in like an Aleister Crowley sort of way where they were reaching out and trying to find this thing, and it was reaching out and trying to find someone like them. I think that's how it happened. But because there was
yeah.
Satanists running Montauk. That's another thing that most people like, okay, like you Montauk Chronicles and stuff like that. You won't even mention, doesn't even mention that the whole documentary. It was an occult,
Hmm.
satanic, like satanic ritual abuse site that just started doing time travel and stuff too, and like just took it to a whole nother level. That's all.
Yeah. I have also heard as such, and I didn't mean to kind of interrupt you earlier because you had sort of answered the question that I was going to ask you when it comes to the ritual element. So you were you sort of answered the question that I was going to ask already, but I will ask a different one. What do you think the cost of this was on what we might call a timeline level? I might be wrong, but what I have observed, and I think part of this is part of the reason why we're doing this here today, because a lot of what I believe the types of energy that we work with in the sessions that we do has to do with clearing and healing and altering energy that people carry with them that help them manifest positive, negative, neutral, all kinds of different timelines. It's like for a long time within our community, I felt like I was one of the only people that was talking about like the multitude of timelines that we were all interacting on. And it's cool as we've gone through the years to see other people starting to confirm that in the beginning I was saying like, hey, this is how it is. And so it's very good to hear that. But one of the things I have observed is that when we are working with time in such a haphazard manner and taking control or forcefully creating alterations as such, maybe they were doing within the Montauk project as being led by some form of an AI that was trying to, change things around. One of the things I've noticed, and I might be wrong, is that by doing so, it creates changes in other areas. Like there's a kickback. It's almost like there's a cost. It's like, yeah, you can bring all of your, energy over to this side and create this outcome, but it'll be at the cost of that
Well,
and that. And go
there's
ahead.
sort of, but so we just realized that okay, there's a lot of experimentation that went into it before they just started making drastic changes to the timeline.
Okay.
And I can't explain the details behind it all or when the AI came in or what have you, because I know that Penny, I'm gonna bring her up again, Penny Bradley. She talks about how she was before me, like a generation before me, when it came to the Montauk kids that they're doing stuff with, and they were sending her back to test the butterfly effect, like doing stuff like, okay, you go to this fruit stand in rural Oregon or rural New York, doesn't really matter where, and take an apple and just see if it affects anything, butterfly
Yeah.
effect.
Interesting.
And so they started doing they're doing tests like that, and they basically eventually figured out that certain people had certain weight to them. Like some people they're just filler. Like okay, like if you send someone back to change something in the timeline, like person A and person B might have different effects doing this. Like they could do the
Right.
same,
Right. Right.
and this guy over person A who is more psychically potent will have a more strong measurable impact on the timeline than person B. So
Right.
they actually started trying figuring out, okay, who are all these key people? And then they figured out okay, certain people from history. And what a lot of people don't realize too is like because of that aspect, like oh, important people throughout history, tons of famous people and stuff like that were Montauk assets. Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, he's a Montauk asset. Marilyn Monroe, Napoleon Bonaparte the third was a Montauk
Makes
asset.
sense. Makes sense.
Um, yeah, I could go on and on. There's some that I'm not really as comfortable talking about because I haven't heard other people talking about, but I'm pretty sure Kurt Cobain was a Montauk asset. I'm pretty sure that Tupac was a Montauk asset. I could go
I
on and
hope
on.
so. I hope
Yeah,
so.
and I'm not those last two I'm not 100% on, but I guess I should put it out there because maybe other people could verify it. But I also remember like the Kurt Cobain thing, like I was on the planet Centurion 5, which is a whole nother story. I've got a video on Super Soldier Talk with James Rink. Let's all about that if anyone wants to look into that. But basically, I remember that there was an Italian song because there's an Italian colony on the planet, and there's this like
Hmm.
opera song, and it was Smells Like Teen Spirit, but different. It was like an Italian song. It was like Lo Porti. I can't speak Italian, so this is gonna
Right,
be.
right, right, right.
It's like
I have a yeah.
it was like
And it
that
was Smells Like
Italian
Teen
song.
Spirit
Yeah,
in that
yeah, in
style.
that style, and it was a huge
Yeah.
song.
I have a really big question about this, and I this you're helping me remember one of the biggest things that I wanted to ask you. And um a lot of people that have been through, whether we want to call it MK Ultra fracturing or a host of other kind of trauma-based mind control programs, whether it be things like Montauk or, some of the other, kind of Hollywood-based things or, whatever it is. There have been a number of people that have talked about the process of being just musical, whether it be writing music, whether it be experiencing music differently, whether it being used as a form of trauma conditioning, or the other part of it. And I know you're a person that's spoken about this. They will have had an experience of, supposedly, and I say supposedly because it's a thing I'm still trying to understand. This is, I think, why you're here. Supposedly encountering music that they believe they have written. Kind of like, we know Donald Marshall's story, and Donald was like, yeah, I wrote this song and this song, and
Yeah,
everyone's got an opinion on like
I have a
Donald, but
whole playlist of songs that I know
so
I wrote
here
or was involved
here
in.
is here's the question about this. Can you explain to me what you understand of that process and how does that work? Because it's been talked about many times, and I think for people who are often skeptical of the people that come through with these experiences, that's usually one of those things where they're like, "Oh, really? You wrote that you know,
Right.
so and so song?"
Question
Like, yeah,
I've
right, bro.
questioned
But
about
yeah.
whether I should even come forward about that. But when I saw how people reacted to Donald Marshall and kind of a lot of people I know believe him. And
Yeah. I
well,
also believe so much of his energy is real, just like I was saying of you at the start. And other people that I've encountered, people like Tony as well. It's like people that I'll meet and I'm like, whoa, there's so much data in your energy field, which for some people is a meaningless statement. It's just from what I do on a daily basis, you will be more tuned into certain things. And people that have had multidimensional experiences organically, their body will carry there's this guy from this channel, Canadian Awareness, that talks about the energy signatures. He was one of the first people that mentioned in a way that I was like, yes, it's like a badge that your energy body will wear. And you're one of those people that have that. And anyway, before I go on and on about that, yeah, explain to us whatever you can of that. Feel free to be as real as you can. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, that's a good one for I've been working on that in my book today. Like writing on my chapter on the music part, and so that's fresh in my memory. So that's good that you asked about that. Well, so there's this guy. Here it's actually in my notes right here. I'll actually
Yeah, yeah,
give
yeah,
the
yeah, go
exact
for it.
name. I'm just writing about it. His name is hold up, 1 second.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Um,
Interesting that you were actually writing about this today
yeah.
because I remember thinking earlier, I'm like, you know what? That's what I want to know. Tell us about the music.
Okay, so there's this guy. His name's Bernard Purdy, and he did this interview. He's an old drummer from like the 60s and 70s that worked for Capitol Records. He's a session musician, and he famously, or I guess maybe not so famously, it's kind of an insider secret. Um, Ringo Starr wasn't a very good drummer,
Oh,
right?
okay. I know who you're talking about. Yes. Go
Yeah,
on.
and he recorded a lot of the drums for Ringo, and
True, right? It's
he got
true.
asked about it, and he totally admitted to it. He even said like I've gotten threats, and like they said they're gonna kill me and stuff like that. When I talked about it before, he's like, I just don't care anymore. I'm old. Like they can fucking kill me, or whatever. I can't remember exactly how I said it,
Yeah.
but
Do me a favor,
I actually have the exact quote right here. Is he said, "The part that that hurts, the real part that hurts is that the people do not understand. Fixing records was a way of life. In the 60s and the 70s, it was a way of life fixing up records because 98% of the groups, self-contained groups, are not on their own albums." So this is a guy who worked in the music industry, worked for Capitol Records. He's not trying to tell you that there's people from there's recording studios on other planets, and Janis Joplin was a Montauk agent or any of that stuff. He is not in that realm at all. And he's telling you 98% of the music that you grew up to, that you listened to, was not recorded by the people that you think recorded it. Now that is a like
It's
what the
really
fuck?
hard for regular people to
And
swallow. That's where a lot of people are going to go, oh, okay.
but
You
no,
know?
but it's a very real thing. You can look into um they would have bands that they recorded the music in a recording studio, and they would want an image. They would want it to look a certain way, presented a certain way.
Right,
And Phil Spector famously, who was involved in this, connected to all this Montauk stuff, he famously bragged about how he could take any
right.
a good-looking girl off the street or whatever and make her famous. He could
Yep.
do that for pretty much anyone who could sing a note, right? Is what he said. And yeah, the whole idea behind, so a lot of it has to do with like, why would they do this? Why would they take me? Why? Okay, like for instance, like I think like one thing that I'm gonna try to make perfectly clear when I talk about this is songwriting isn't some mystical, far off thing that only like a small percent of human beings are capable of. Uh, as somebody who, and I'm sure you know too, like did like the DIY musician thing, I
Hmm.
ran into a lot of really talented people who you'll probably never hear their name in your life, but they're
Right. Never.
incredible.
The most of them you'll never hear. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, but the reason why they picked me is exactly what you're talking about before, that badge, that psychic signature. I have a
Yeah.
psychic signature that I put off to where if I'm feeling that emotion in a song, like if a song's a sad song and I'm there, and I record that, it's so deeply entrenched in the song. Even if someone covers it, even if it's a
Yeah.
person they can cover it, and that psychic signature will still be there. People
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
understand how this all works. And what people need to understand about why Montauk was so heavily involved in the music industry, and why the military industrial complex is so interested in this, and why black magicians, Satanists are so interested in the music industry, is because when you create music, you're putting out telepathic energy,
I agree.
telepathic messages, psychic energy. Okay, you're putting out that like for instance, like when the Beatles saying like this, I want to hold your hand and stuff like that. The reason why women in the audience were like orgasming from just being in the fucking room and like
I've
paying
heard that. I've
stuff
heard
like
that.
that
Yes.
is because it's the first time they were ever exposed to just like raw sexual energy that wasn't
Right.
during sex. And
Right.
that's how they responded to it. They literally had that sexual energy in their
The
music, in the
purity of the
songs.
frequency was
And
undeniable.
the woman had never been exposed to that in music before. The society was so Puritan before then. So that
Yeah.
it was such an extreme thing. Now we got sexual Britney Spears, man. Don't even get me
Right.
started on the fucking sexual frequencies they put in that shit.
I know, right?
Like if people only knew, they wouldn't listen to it. Like, but
Or they would listen to it more. You know?
yeah, I guess so.
But
Well,
anyway.
the thing is that's a whole story because Dennis Pop, Chiron
Yeah.
Studios, it's all connected to this. The story of Chiron is the story of this Greek god who
The
was a
wounded
healer.
healer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he got damaged and he couldn't heal himself, but he also couldn't die because he was immortal.
Hmm.
And so they built the recording studio and called it Chiron Studios because they have clones of all their assets. Clones of Britney Spears. She's got that music video where she goes into the clone factory and blows it up and stuff. There's a reason for that. They have clones of all their assets. And they had a clone of me. They had me. I would wake up. This is a whole fucking other story, but I would wake up. It's a ritual thing. Ritualistic abuse was involved in this. And they called me the
Yeah.
there's this weird, creepy fucking Swedish guy who would pick me up and called me the boy who sings, I wouldn't remember every time. It was like my first time because they would ritually sacrifice me during the recording of the song, and then they would put that energy in the recording. That's why I'm saying like people wouldn't listen to it if they knew that was happening. They were doing that to Britney Spears
Yeah.
stuff too,
Yeah.
like the whole like Britney Spears like shaving her hair. Uh, that was because okay, these are MK, all these pop stars, all these Disney pop stars are fucking literally CIA MK Ultra assets. period. It starts with Disney. They make their parents sign contracts when they're children, okay?
Mhm.
And what they do is it says like because they're like it these they always say that's why like it doesn't matter that the musicians are totally different than the recording. It's all about the fucking image, all about the fucking image. So they tell them your kid has you know how your kid has brown hair? Not anymore. She's a blonde now, okay? And you know how she has brown eyes? Not anymore. If she doesn't wear blue contacts, we will fine her. And by the way, you know how you're her parents? Not anymore. We have these cool fucking hip parents that are going to be her parents now.
Mhm.
And they think that it's all hypothetical and it's all just for the public. No, after this, they sheep dip them. They fucking brainwash them. They literally made Britney Spears think that fucking creep guy is actually her dad. Like they brainwash, they give you new identities, new lives. They sheep dip you, and like
Right.
they rub it in everybody's faces if you pay attention. Like in sync, their album, No Strings Attached.
Really,
It's
really quickly
all
for those that don't know, describe sheep dipping. What
sheep dip.
is
Oh,
that?
okay, sheep dip. So sheep
For
dipping
those that
is
don't, go ahead.
when the CIA takes somebody and is like, "Hey, we could use you to gather information, or we could use you to do this, we could use you to do that. We're gonna send you here with a new identity." And so they give you a new literally a new ID, a new social security number, new everything.
Yep.
You have a new identity.
You're wiped from the system.
Yeah, they do. They did that to these Disney kids. They did that to they're all and like I said, they all have clones and they the super elite, both on and off world, can pay money. There's like these places where they have just tons of clones, right?
Yeah.
And you can pay money to
The cloning
activate
centers, right?
celebrities and have sex with them. Basically, it doesn't matter what you do. You pay X amount of money to spend time with them. I could go in there. So if I paid for X amount of time with Britney Spears, I could go in there and I could essay her or whatever, or I could go on there and ask her how, just hang out and just have a
Yeah.
conversation with her. You can do whatever you want. They don't care. I
The
think you have to pay
richest
a little bit
man's
more money for
game.
certain things, but
I feel you. It's
but
the
yeah, and
richest man's game.
and yeah, so that's an aspect to it, and that's also an aspect where like they're making these time corporations and these military corporations make vast swaths of money off the music industry. And another aspect to that is they also use it for human trafficking. So it's like there's famously it's been talked about, maybe not so famously for certain people in our community. People know about this, but uh, Michael Jackson's dad was sex trafficking him, and he famously made more money off of that probably than he made off of his son's records and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's just like a huge thing in the music industry is the sex connection to it, and like people will pay uh really good money to be able to fuck Marilyn Monroe or Britney Spears, and
Right.
it's actually them. That's crazy, right? Like and they're just such sick people. Like I don't know if you know about this, but like some guy like and this makes me pissed off and I want to change it. It's one of those things that I want to make
Okay.
sure
It's okay.
changes.
Be real. Be real.
But there's this guy that like fucking was obsessed with Marilyn Monroe and he paid all this money to be buried on top of her, like
Oh,
his
right. I've heard
on
of it.
top of her
Yes.
grave.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, what? She was a Montauk asset.
Crazy.
I knew her, okay, and
Really?
I care. Yes, yes.
Do you think that you knew the original her or one of the cloned versions of
It
her
was
that
isn't
they
it was not
created?
Marilyn. It was an asset, but it's us. Like it
Right,
wasn't me
right.
either. I was Jacob, but I knew her. Okay, I knew her, and she deserves so much better than that. And Hugh Hefner, she's buried by Hugh Hefner. Fuck that pedophile, fucking piece of shit creep. Like
I
fuck that
have
guy.
I have a question about all this, and maybe this is also me kind of pulling it back into a different maybe timeline, but as you've gone through the process of unpacking and kind of remembering the many altars or the many missions or the versions of you that were, in that chair in Montauk and sent, throughout wherever you were sent. And you kind of talked about one of them earlier with, maybe it was like a multi-dimensional assassin version of you, but were there main kind of alters or main aspects of self that keep showing up? Because one of the things I've noticed with the people I've worked with that have had those authentic experiences and usually comes along with, diagnosis of like DID or, something similar to that, is that they'll find they have these main versions of them. that will keep coming back in. And maybe that's you, maybe not. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but have you found there's main alters that are bringing you this data and these experiences? And I guess, yeah, anything that feels relevant there.
Jacob from Montauk. He's like one of my main Montauk altars. These are the ones that I get the most recall from. Is Jacob,
Yeah.
Ryan Sterling, who is I don't think thrilled about it. I don't think it's purposeful, but well, no, he tries to help me out. It's hard to explain. There's a lot of stuff he doesn't want me to know, but he tries to help me. Like
Huh.
he'll just like show up out of nowhere. Like I'll wake up in the morning and be like, "Hey, I need to talk to you. Hey, you need to know about this, and that. Watch out." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And then sure enough, the things he warned me about like happen. Like it's crazy. But he's a CIA asset. Um he worked for the CIA in the 1950s as a ghost, so he did a lot of work for them. And he also worked on Centurion 5 as a time cop kind of guy that like I don't know how to explain it. Like just took care of things and made sure their timeline stayed right, I guess, on that planet. That was kind of his job. And then so Jacob is like my main Montauk one, and he's very present, and I think the closest to the core of me and who I am as far as
Huh.
I don't know. But and then so there's Jacob, there's who did I say?
How
Jacob.
so, though, when you say that Jacob is closer to you or the version of you that's here now?
Okay, they do this thing called phoenixing where they'll actually bring in versions of you from other realities into your body, and then that personality will be inside of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jacob was very much so not that. He's like me if I experience, but the one that experienced Montauk. That's the only
Yeah.
difference.
Okay. Okay.
Whereas there's other ones like we're way different. I don't know, like our personalities are different. Like, but Jacob, we're kind of similar in our personalities, I guess.
So hold on, wait. So just so I understand, Jacob is the version of yourself that went through the Montauk experiences, or what
Mhm.
you've come to
Well, there's
understand
also
as that.
there's more than one actually. I'm starting to realize
Okay.
I had a female alter. I think her name was Sophia. And then I had another one named Hans, which is a German alter that did a bunch of work with the German colonies. But Jacob actually did too. And then and Hans is also another one who wrote a lot of songs because see, just another thing that I guess I can explain. Some of these songs come from other planets
Yeah.
and or other timelines. And all I know is that because I remember it a lot, and he even telepathically hit me up one time. He lives in some fucking skyscraper in this really like Blade Runner type city where he's a famous musician and he DJs in like nightclubs. And some famous music that's on Earth in English, it's from that planet. And like, okay, for instance, Rhythm is a Dancer and Rhythm of the Night. That's from that planet. I made that song in collaboration. It wasn't just me. There's like that they both. And here's another thing: is Corona did Rhythm of the Night, and then it was someone else who did Rhythm as a Dancer. That's the same woman singing on those recordings, my friend. The
It
same
feels
woman.
like it. It feels
It's the
like it.
same woman, and it was recorded on another fucking planet. Okay, whether people want to believe me or not. And there's
So
a
wait,
lot
so
of
hold on,
those
wait.
songs.
So the song that those two songs were originally recorded on what we would call like a breakaway civilization by, it sounds like you're saying a German altar of yours that's still existing in that time space.
Hard to explain it because I think he might be in the future or in the past. I'm not sure, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, music that like
It's okay.
it blew up on another planet, it did really well. Bring it to Earth,
Yeah.
put stuff in it, and also another thing is the reason why dance music is so good for programming and just the reason why it's so popular is because those drum machines that they make.
Hmm.
They're hypnotic. Okay,
Yeah.
on an exact grid, doesn't deviate, and there's no micro little changes. It's fucking hypnotic. Like
Yeah.
it's like pulsing, and that's one of the reasons why that music is so like great for programming people. And that's another thing too is like these songs. There's another aspect to it where um color and sound programming, nightclubs are where a lot of things will happen, or strip clubs too, especially because Well, nightclubs, like especially back in the day when like people were doing like cocaine and maybe like having risky sex on the dance floor and stuff like that. No one's gonna be like taking pictures and stuff like that. Like this is the
Right.
perfect, these are the perfect environments for seedy time corp type things to happen. And I forgot what were we talking about, man. I'm having a brain fart.
Oh, no, that's totally cool. We were talking about the altars that you had encountered, and it's okay if there's not anymore. It's not like we would even need a list of
Oh
them,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
but this is what I was getting at is this music, okay, disco balls and the flashing lights and the rhythm of the music. There's programming in it. They actually showed this in the Netflix movie they cloned Tyrone. How like they can
Oh, right.
make
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
make people feel and do certain things, but they also can activate alters this way. So
Yeah.
you can be out at the club and they know. And they
Yeah.
know. The DJ knows. And he may not even know he knows because he's got an alter that's like coming in and messing and because your alters will come in and take over, but not fully take over and stuff. It's
Right,
really
right.
fucking complicated and hard to explain. Like for instance,
Oh,
like
influence.
my friend the other night, he altered out and he was singing songs in German, but he said he couldn't understand them. It's like, well, how did he know the words then? There's something inside them that understood. Like, you know what I
It
mean? Like,
happens. It happens. I feel you. It's just,
yeah. So
it happens, you know?
but it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, so I've got tons of them, man. I think it was the guy it's Montauk guy. He's got a book I'm having a brain fart. Stuart Swerdlow, he's got a book, something
Oh,
cute.
right.
Yeah,
You
and
hear a lot
basically
of both negative and well, not that many positive
I know that
things about him. Like, go ahead. What's your take?
he has information. I'm not saying he's a good guy.
I
There's
feel you.
information that he's got that's definitely true. And I think his
Yeah.
book, um, uh, it's like 38 cubed or something cubed. I'm saying it totally wrong, but he basically explains how they programmed us all the same way. And there's like literally like hundreds or if not thousands of alters in us all. And
Yeah.
it gets crazy. It gets crazy, Matthew, because like so I have these main ones that they use, like uh Ryan Sterling, Jacob, Hans, and then another one, Jack. Those are some of the main ones that they use the most. But I got tons of them. I got one named Jonas. There's so many of them. But then there's also Benign. Also, Preston Nichols was the programmer at Montauk, and I remember being around when he was creating new altars for these kids and stuff like that. And I remember him being like, we can't put him back yet. This He's not gonna work. He's too powerful. We need to water him down before we put him back. He would literally like talk about it so rudimentary. Like, and what he talked about by watering them down is he meant splitting their consciousness more. Because
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
explaining they're too psychically powerful still. We
Yeah.
can't put it back.
Like
So
they're
he's like,
gonna
we need to
remember.
make
Yeah,
more
they're gonna
altars.
start doing shit.
Yeah, so we need to make more altars. So, because the more altars you have, the more spread out your consciousness is, the
Right.
less powerful you are. You know what I mean? So he was like, we need to make, he would make altars that were literally benign. They didn't do anything, they're just in there hanging out. But then another thing that people need to understand is we have altars that are inside of our consciousness that exist in our minds, like, as like, trying to think of the word, like referees, like gatekeepers.
Yes. Yes.
Like
Yes.
so like for instance, one example would be like if I try to go out and do stuff, I live a pretty I don't go out that much.
Okay.
Recently I used to be a social butterfly, but they put this program in where if I go out, well it's an author that's coming through. If I try to go out, I get all anxious. I get all anxious. They don't want me to be out in the world interacting with people.
Right.
That's
Right.
something that everyone that is part of these programs need to understand is like yes, it's important for you to like hang out and like talk with like-minded people and talk about aliens and all that crazy shit. But it's also really important for us to just like go out in society and just hang out and mingle with people and maybe not talk about aliens.
I
Just
agree with that. I think yeah, it helps us like integrate ourselves in the society that we're stuck in, love it or hate it. You know what I mean?
yeah, so
It's like we're
they'll put this
here.
programming in you that like makes you not want to go out. And like there's a movie American Ultra that does a really good example of this. That's a really great movie for anyone who's trying to understand these
American
programs. Stuff like
altar.
that.
Yeah.
American Ultra, watch that movie if you haven't watched it.
I
There's a
have a
it
go
shows that
ahead
he
and then I'll
cannot
ask.
leave his town. I
Mhm.
personally have overcome this big time. I've been all over the place, but I have friends who
Yeah.
are MK Ultra assets from the town that I live in, and they probably haven't left Appleton, Wisconsin in like literally 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, something like that, like crazy. Like they haven't left ever. And like there's that movie MK the American Ultra, they show how he tries to take his girlfriend on this nice vacation in Hawaii and he can't even go. He like fucking breaks down at the airport. He can't do it because he's got programming. And it's like,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to
Yeah.
explain is we have alters inside us that'll stop us from doing things. Like there's this poor woman. There's this German woman who was trying to do an interview with me. 4 times I missed her. 4 times I missed her, dude. And at first I was just like, the first couple times I was like,
That's
well, this is
kind of a
weird.
sign of like interference, just so you know.
Yeah, yeah. Like at first I was like, oh man, how could I fuck up this? I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Sometimes
And
it's not
she got
even
mad.
you.
By the third or fourth time or whatever it was, she's angry and upset. But I explained to her, I was like, I'm so sorry, but and she's a German woman. And dude, every time I realized I had missed her, I was like, I was like pulling my hair out. I wanted to talk to her so bad. That's the
Yeah.
fucked up part. And like, dude, and she got really mad at me. She's like, your generation needs to learn how to be punctual. You need to learn how to hold meetings. That I'm like, I don't know if you
You were
understand.
totally punctual today. I don't know. I mean, like you were
No,
there
yeah,
before I was, so I don't know, man.
I
I
just
don't know.
explained to her, I was like, I think because you're German and I
Yeah.
have such a connection to Germany that I have alters that really don't want me to talk to you. I think that's what's
Maybe
going on because they know that
very
if I
possible.
talk to a German woman, my German alters are going to start coming out. They know that. So they do not want me to talk to this woman
Why would that be a bad thing?
because like if they don't want my German alters do not want me to sit here on Earth and go on YouTube and talk about what Nachtwaffen is doing and all these secrets they have. I know shit about Nachtwaffen that's like damning that they let's put it this way. Nachtwaffen, the German military in space, they very much so try to present themselves as this moral fortitude, as this like moral purity. But the reality is they're doing human trafficking, drug trafficking, and all this other stuff, just like the CIA, for example. You know, oh, we're
Right.
helping America, we're keeping us safe. Meanwhile, you're literally the ones bringing cocaine into the
Right.
countries.
Of course.
It's the same thing with Nachtwaffen. And so I just like know stuff about them that I mean they just don't want they don't like it when we go on the internet and talk about this stuff. And for the
Yeah.
multi-dimensional aspect of this is another thing I want to explain while we're here and now that we've reached this
Yeah.
preface
Yeah.
is with the multi-dimensional thing, I've been trying to explain this to people. People will be like, why is this guy over here? And sure, I'm not saying there aren't people who are lying or delusional that are out there
Right.
and you use
It's
your
okay. Be
discernment.
real. Be real. Yeah.
But there are people out there. Well, this guy over here, wow, he seems really genuine, and he's saying Solar Warden's this great group, and they're doing all these great things, and they're awesome, and but then we got this other guy over here, and he's saying they're doing all this terrible stuff, and da 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 da. And what I want people to understand is there's swaps, there's what they call bubble swaps, and I think what some of this is, okay, is so let's say you got timeline A, B, C, D, and E, okay,
Okay.
A and B, okay, they need you to go on a 20 back over here, and they need you to go on a 20 back over here, but they know you've got bleed through and you're remembering things, talking about them and stuff. Well, this reality is different enough from this reality to where if I talk about what happened, it's not even in this. It's like me. It's like talking about meeting a squirrel named Craig and going to. It
Right.
doesn't matter because it's not
While it might have been a very real thing that you did, it has no
in
relevance
another reality.
in
So it
our
doesn't,
world. Right.
there's no security breach.
I feel
So
you.
that's a huge aspect of this. And so when I have people who tell me there's only one timeline, we changed it a bunch, but there's only one timeline. And I'm sorry, but nah, there's a bunch of different
Right.
times. There's a
Right.
bunch of
Thank you
different
for
realities.
saying that publicly because I've encountered the same people and I'm like, dude, if you really believe there's only one or two or three, it's like, are you really even looking? And then that makes me question myself. And I'm like, does that mean that I'm crazy? That I think there's like a literal infinite number of, timelines for each individual. And then there's like co-created ones and sort of like soul group timelines. And you know what I mean? All the,
For me,
the many
I
pieces. Go
always
ahead.
thought that it was kind of like a rudimentary, very elementary, like beginning.
Right?
It's because like Andrew
Right.
Basiago is kind of a pioneer, if you will, of
It kind of
talking
is.
about
I agree.
yeah, like
Very, very interesting guy.
he's been around a lot longer than me, that's for sure,
Yeah.
right? And he talked about how he got sent back in time or forward in time or whatever, and went to his house. Sent back. Yeah, he got sent back, and he was supposed to. She's just trying to go home after doing something, and he gets to the house, and it's some lady, and she's like, your family doesn't live here," and he's like, "Damn, I must be in the wrong reality then." Like, and the lady, like, he stayed there for like 2 or 3 days, and eventually, like, Men in Black types came there and brought him to this reality.
Yeah.
So that shows that these realities are communicating. Here's another
Yeah.
interesting thing
Yeah.
is I know a guy who I'm not going to go into how I know him, and he doesn't talk about this publicly to
It's all
anyone.
good. It's all good.
But basically, he told me that in another timeline, and I know this is pie in the sky shit. It
It's
sounds
okay.
crazy.
Be real. It's all right. That's why
I'm being
people
real
come
because I
here
believe
because
this
we're going to
individual.
talk
I
about
know
it.
this individual and I believe him. He basically told me that, and it lines up with the shit I'm remembering now too. He told me that in this other reality, he became president of the United States. And he remembered being president of the United States. It's something that happens in the future still. It wouldn't happen in this timeline. It still wouldn't happen yet. But in this other alternate reality, he said he was president of the United States. And he said that one day he's hanging out in the Oval Office and these men in black show up and they start talking about an AI and reality is collapsing and we need to keep you safe. So we're bringing you to another reality. And he's like, okay, I guess. Like, just like,
Interesting.
yeah. So, and then he said the next thing you know, he's in front of his girlfriend's house, who in that timeline he ended up marrying her. And
Huh.
he's like, just police. He's like there with flowers because she's like gonna come home from this vacation. He's like there like to greet her or whatever. And all of a sudden the police come out of nowhere and like arrest him. And he's brought to a mental institution. And his whole life
Oh,
just gets turned upside down from that place state forward. And yeah, he's like, yeah, man, like I was standing there in front of our house, like dumbfounded because like the last thing I remembered, I was in the Oval Office and I didn't like how the fuck am I in my past now? Like, and he told me about this, and this was before I had my memories back and everything else, and I was just like in tears, like, man, I know no one's ever gonna believe you when you tell them the story, but I believe you because I know how crazy this shit gets. It's insane.
what if everyone has what we might call that sort of a timeline available to them? And one of the things that occurs as you go through the process of transferring through different realities is that at a certain stages you will find yourself on that timeline in which maybe you had become the president, or maybe if we were living in, the time of ancient Egypt, you had become the pharaoh, and so you find the pharaoh version of you, or
Yeah, that's where it gets
you find,
wild.
like the whoever
Yeah.
version of you.
I don't
What do you
know.
think?
I don't know if it gets that deep. Like, I don't know if like there's a version of me that lives in Africa because every possible version of me exists or whatever. I know it's a weird random, or there's a version of me
I
that's
feel
a
you.
fucking there's a version of me that's a fucking lion tamer because that has to exist.
And
I don't
and
know if
and
that's true or not.
and some would say
I'm
as
not
soon as
saying
you
it
say
is.
the
I'm not saying
words creates it, right? Some
yeah.
like people would be like, just because you mentioned that lion tamer, now there's a version of you. It's a lion tamer. Good luck, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Who
damn,
knows though? I don't know.
maybe
All I
not.
know is I've seen some crazy
Yeah.
shit. Like when it
Yeah.
comes to these alternate realities, there's certain things I do remember. Like one thing I remember is when you go to an alternate reality, it's easier to go to one that's similar to yours.
Yeah.
The more different it gets from your reality, the harder it is to get to. And so what we would maybe do sometimes if we need to get to this really crazily different reality way over here is we go to this other reality that's slightly different, then go to another reality that's slightly
Yeah.
different, go to another reality that's slightly different.
Gradual jump.
Finally
Yes.
got to the one that's like way fucking different. So that's another thing I remember about it. And yeah, we
Hold
interact with
on.
each
Hold
other.
on.
These timelines interact with each other. The Andrew Basiago thing proves it, and also
Yeah.
with the whole AI that wants to collapse realities, we all these different realities are have militaries that are communicating for the very purpose of no one wants their reality to get collapsed. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So we have many powerful people behind the scenes working to make sure that doesn't happen. So I
I
don't think.
agree. I agree. And here, just really quickly, pause right there because I got to ask you this question before we go too far past this. And maybe this is just too much of a basic question, but this is one for other people that are going to be watching this that have noticed the same things that I have noticed, and also what you've been talking about. One of the things that I've noticed the process of changing timelines within my own life is exactly as you said, a gradual, strange change, a hopping from reality to reality. It's been so absolutely apparent for me that I don't know any other way to describe it. But my question to you is, do you believe this is a thing that happens to us organically in this human journey? Because a lot of people talk about this thing where it's like they wake up and maybe, I don't know, like they're like me and they're driving down the road to go get some breakfast somewhere and they're like, dude, this is different. it's different. And
Well,
then
the
someone's like,
Mandela effect.
how? Someone's like, how? And you're like, I don't know. It was just different. And so is that a thing that happens to everyone else as well?
Yeah, I think
What's your
so.
view?
I think so. I think that when it comes to the multiverse and multidimensional, whatever, I think that it's all very complicated, but I think that yeah, we're jumping all the time. It's where Mandela effects come from. Like I was listening to there's little tiny changes I notice all the time. One
Right.
thing I noticed recently is like there's the band Always, their first album. Okay,
Oh, always with the two V's. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Molly Rankin is in the programs.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
But dude, look at their music. Many Mirrors.
Yeah. Okay.
After I passed through many mirrors, I can't believe we're still the same. They're talking about walking through mirrors. That's how we would open portals of mirrors at Montauk and walk through them. That's what that song's about, dude. And like there's all sorts of their songs that are tied to the programs, man. I don't even know if they realize it because one of the songs Belinda says, I'm like, dude, I remember that. And I didn't claim to be my song. I remembered a girl from Montauk wrote it that wasn't Molly. And I was like, what the fuck? How are they getting these? Are the record company giving to them? So then I watched this live performance they did on KXP, and this is I'm really glad I'm fucking bringing this up on this. This is the
Yeah.
first time we brought this up on like an interview. The guy from KXP is like, yeah, man, I don't know how to explain what that Belinda says song. He's like, one day I was just riding my bike with my friend and I was on some psilocybin. I was on mushrooms. I was feeling really good. And all of a sudden it just started playing in my head, man. I don't know how to explain it. And I was just like, we got to get to Molly and we got to make this a fucking song. Let's go. Let's go to Molly and make this a tune for our next record or whatever. And then what's
Oh,
bizarre about that is I remember there was a time where I had a similar experience where I was on my bicycle. Okay. I was going to meet up with my girlfriend at the time, and I was on mushrooms, and there was this song just started playing in my head. It's like
yeah. Yeah.
moon's gonna keep on shining on you and me. Well, the Lord's gonna keep on giving everybody what they really need. It's like this whole song, and I could hear like
Yeah.
vocal harmonies and like the fucking claw hammer banjo and just like this great
Yeah.
bluegrass song just like playing in my head. And I was just like, I was mind blown. It gets crazier, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I can't forget
So
the song.
was that being transmitted
It was just playing in
into your body? Was it the
yes, it was
mycelium network with the mushrooms?
something
How
like
did you
that.
receive
Something
it?
like that. It was a sacred thing. It was a sacred thing. So it gets crazy. So
Yeah.
then this woman, uh, I stop on my bike to text my girlfriend and be like, hey, because I was meeting up and I was gonna be like, hey, gotta go home real quick and grab my banjo and record this thing real quick so I don't forget it, and then I'll come meet you. I was only a few blocks away from my house. So I was
Right.
like, I was just gonna text her, like, just wait like 10, 15 more minutes. It's just gonna need to do this real quick. And I hear a fucking banjo. I hear a banjo off in the distance. And I'm literally just like,
Oh.
hello, where's the banjo coming from?
Whoa.
Where's the banjo? Who's playing it? And this
Yeah.
little old lady pokes her head out. Her, show me. I'm just
Oh,
like,
really? Oh, wait. So
oh,
you
no.
actually did say that. You were literally calling out,
Yes, I was
"Where's the
literally
banjo?"
yelling it out. And
Oh, I thought you were just like in your
no,
head.
I was literally
Oh,
like, hey,
interesting.
who's
Wow,
playing the
wild.
banjo?
Okay.
And I say to this
So
woman,
real
like,
band.
I don't
Okay.
know if you believe in miracles, lady, but this song just started playing in my head. That's a banjo song. And then I stopped to text my girlfriend, and then I hear you playing the banjo. And she's like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, that is wild. I'm like, you want to hear this song? She's like, yeah, sure. And she comes down and she gives me her banjo and I play it for her. And then shortly after that, Janis Joplin is in my mind talking to me. And I'm like, you know, for years, I'm just like, whoa, wow, what a fun mushroom trip. I was on
Yeah. Yeah.
drugs. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, but no, she said some stuff. I saw her in a black uniform, which I always
Yeah.
thought was weird. It makes a lot of sense now. And she's just told me that she like loved me, brother, and all this stuff. And she said, I was like, where are you? Are you dead? Like, where are you? And she's like, let me just explain it this way. It's like, I keep an eye on you and I try to make sure you're okay and I care about you or something like that. I'm like, okay, well, are you in heaven? And she's like, let's just put it this way. The sun is still shining up here, brother. Because in that song, like the next line, it's like the sun's
Whoa.
shining.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the sun is still shining up here, brother. And I'm just like, okay.
Whoa. I
And
feel that. I feel that for
I didn't
sure.
understand. And now get this, so now I know that's one of Janis Joplin's songs. That Moonshining song, that's her song. So I always tell people that when I play it, I'm like, I didn't write this, Janis Joplin did. So, and I think it's the same thing with Always. No, they're not. They didn't steal the song. Some sort of higher entity, some sort of maybe even
It's
the person who
broadcasted
wrote
through
it
the
or whatever.
collective
It's
consciousness,
like
perhaps.
yeah, and I'm sure the version that they made too is different than the version that the
Right.
person wrote. It came out probably totally different, and it's awesome, and I love them. They're a very great band. I actually saw them live, and get this, man, I went
Mm.
and saw Always live, and when they played Many Mirrors, me and my girlfriend Kat, we are dressed as Mulder and Scully, and I held up a
Oh,
sign.
nice. Whoa, rad.
I held up a sign during Many Mirrors that said "Portals are real." And and just like and she saw it too, and it was intense. I felt like an energy off
Interesting.
of it when she saw my sign. It was like,
Actually, I had that's gonna bring me to one of the questions I was gonna ask you. So get ready. I'm gonna hijack this time stream and aim it toward that question. Tell us what you, and I guess this is because this is a thing that everyone's talking about right now, right? Everyone, within our community, there's a great uproar over what we may call temporal wars, what we might call, like the timeline correction and upheaval process. And there's a lot of talk about, multi-dimensional portals and the manner through which we pass through gateways into other alternate dimensions. And you're literally talking about songs that will reference those very things. Tell us about your experience with such things. Like what comes up for you?
like as far as like other alternate realities that I've been to.
I would say anything in that area. I think that was one of the things I was gonna ask you about it at the beginning, and the question got weirdly distorted. So maybe I don't know what I'm asking.
Um,
Are we in the midst of a timeline war right now? Because that's a
yeah, yeah, oh
that's a
yeah,
big term
definitely.
that everyone's been like throwing around, and how would that manifest for normal people? Because like a lot of people that will watch this are people that are very very new to some of the things that you're talking about, and some of these people are very well experienced. And if there's one thing I've noticed about the people that watch our channel is that they are people that are coming to new understandings of the multidimensional abilities and the manner in which they're capable of creating change. And so I think, when we hear stuff about like timeline wars or temporal wars or the manner through which our consciousness is trying to create upheaval or to correct things in this realm, I think a lot of people that will watch this will agree and they'll go, what is my role? What can I do about it? And so I guess I'm just saying, tell us of your experience in terms of, yeah, anything that
Okay,
comes
this is
up
what
for
I
you.
believe.
Go ahead.
This is what I've come to understand is you know that song by the Talking Heads, Radiohead?
I think so. Probably
Well,
give me a little bit of it if you can.
Radiohead, it's a brand new vibration or something like Radiohead. It's a brand new age. I don't know. I'm probably saying the lyrics
I
wrong.
feel you. That's okay. Yeah, yeah. Go
But
ahead.
you know, and that's the band name that like awesome band Radiohead. Like they named their
Totally. I
whole
was obsessed with them for years, dude. Like
yeah, great
literally
band. But
obsessed.
also feel like they know a lot of things. But like
Oh, they do. They're totally part of the blood cult, man. It's so deeply referenced. They literally say it in their songs. We suck young blood. The literal name of the song is "We Suck Young Blood." It's like, damn, bro. Like,
that's
it's
disgusting. That's
no,
fucked
it
up.
is. It's crazy, right? And nobody knew at the time. It came out in 2010, I think. Nobody was talking about that in 2010. And they were literally showing, like the drawing face from like, Epstein Island. Oop, did I just sync our channel? Who cares? But you know how there's like the that sort of face, the one that Ellen had, on her jumper or whatever. They had their own version of it. And then literally the song title was We Suck Young Blood. They're telling you exactly what it was, but it's all just conspiracy. And for the record, that's just my opinion, pure
Yeah.
speculation.
But anyway, I believe that realities are like frequencies. And so like sometimes ghosts might not necessarily be some sort of energy that was left behind. Like sometimes you might like they're slightly phasing into your reality. Like for instance, like I have something happen in this house all the time that I'm living in where I'll see someone in the living room for a split second and they'll see me and it's a moment where we're both like, what the fuck? And then they're gone
Yes.
instantly.
Yes.
I think that it's us both slightly tuning into their reality.
Right.
Like the
Right.
living is different too when I'm looking at them. Like everything's different. Like it's like for a split second we're in each like phasing in and out of each other.
Totally.
It's really hard to explain. And I just think that like
Realities
for instance,
collide.
like fairies too, like the fae, like how they talk about like how when fairies come out, I think that's part of it. It's like a frequency. Like when you're in the forest, you can step into one of those portals that will bring one of those fairy portals that will bring you into their frequency, into that
Yes.
reality where they exist and they're very real and they're floating around all over the place. You know what I
Hell
mean?
yeah, they are.
Yeah, and so I think that's what a lot of it is it's tuning into frequencies, and I do believe in
Yes.
the truth that like 100% it's unfortunate that there are like these omnipresent time lord fucking corporations that like change things, and it's very hard to escape their grasp, and it's very, very fucked up, very much so a violation of everything that's right and true and organically pure or whatever you want to call it. But
Good.
what was I trying to say? Fuck brain farts, man.
We were talking about portals and kind of timelines and the manner, through which it's a thing that we all experience, and then we went into the
Oh yeah, I just think that like yeah,
time
despite the fact
core, I guess,
that
and
they're very powerful corporate time corporations that are mucking up our reality and manipulating it, we do decide what reality we're living in to an extent every day.
I
There's
agree.
certain things that
Yes.
are beyond our control.
Yeah.
It's both things are simultaneously true. And that's like that's why people get annoyed when you're like, just manifest, brother. Like, oh,
Right.
like your cat just died of cancer. Like, bro, you're just not manifesting hard enough. Like positive
Right. Right.
vibes. Like that shit annoys the fuck out of me too. Like negative things happen. You need to deal with them. You can't just love and light fucking everything into just purity.
We come here to experience them on Earth. It makes sense.
You kind of can love and light things into purity. It's just you need to be like reasonable about it and
I feel
real
you.
about it and understand that the shadow self is real, that negativity is always going to exist, and like just be realistic about it. But the truth is that I'm trying to get at is like we do manifest our reality. We do decide what universe we're gonna live in. What like when people are talking about like New Earth timeline, I'm choosing the New Earth timeline. I don't want to go into this AI
Actually,
timeline.
that's that.
Earth
Yeah, that's a
timeline.
very good
I think
question.
that's
What's your
real.
whole
I
view on
think we
that?
have a
Yeah, go ahead.
choice. I think we have a choice. I think we gotta consent. I think that's a part of this is like if we really are gonna have this dark timeline where all this bad stuff happens, I feel like consent's a big part of it. I feel
Yeah.
like they believe whether it's like a nefarious, like where they trick us kind of consent or not, they believe in some sort of consent.
Yeah.
And here you have a group of people like us saying literally like one of our catchphrases has become, I do not consent. We do not
Right.
consent.
Right. Right.
And that's huge because and one thing is like there might be like human organizations that don't care about this, but one thing that I've been doing is before I go to bed, I'll say like I protect this room in golden light energy, and nothing is allowed in or out without my permission, whether it's physical or energetically or psychically. You cannot enter the space. You need to knock on the door and be like, "Hey, can I come in?" And I'll either let you in or tell you go away.
Yeah.
And I do it every night
Yeah.
before I go to bed.
It's a
And
very rightful thing to do. Yeah.
a lot of human time corporations aren't going to give a shit. They're going to kidnap you anyway because they're violating so many laws
Absolutely.
they can't even count them.
I
But a lot
agree.
of ET groups are actually going to listen to that. They're actually going to be like, okay, that's technically we can't violate galactic law, so we're going to leave you alone. Now, unfortunately, you might cut yourself off to some good groups that are taking you.
I
That
agree.
that
I
might
agree.
happen, but it's I think it's just safer to, or you can even be specific and be like, if you are of the light, you are of positivity, like whatever, then it's okay. But the only thing is, I just feel that's dangerous because a group could be like, well, I did, I helped somebody today. So technically
You
I'm
know
good.
what? Wait, that's a very important point to make. This is a thing that I talk about a lot. It's like we've been given this collective brainwave in our, soul group that says the light equal good, bright light equal holy. And everybody forgets Lucifer is the light bringer. You know what I mean? It's not about the light, it's about the intention or the frequency behind it. There would be not one single truly demonic entity that if it really wanted to create a pact with you, why would it show up as a demonic entity? It wouldn't. It would show up as this
That's what I've
brilliant,
been saying about
blazing
the
being of
fucking
light.
archangels to everyone.
I was gonna ask you about that. Okay, hold on. Let me just say this really quickly. Then I want to get your view. I remember a while back you were saying like don't connect with archangels and this and that. And here's the thing. I kind of agree. The archangels, I believe when you truly tune into certain frequencies, you get a much different dose of what it is. And I believe that these are beings that don't necessarily always have our best interest in mind. It depends on which archangels you're connecting with. And some of them are literally, what's the word, corrupted at this stage? Like
Yeah,
Metatron, I
I
think
think,
is
and
one
here's
that's
another
easily
thing
corrupted.
is
Go
is
ahead.
one thing that's a problem with just human beings that bleeds over in this community sometimes that we need to get rid of is like
Yeah.
I'm smart enough to recognize that are all the archangels bad? That would probably be really naive of me to think that.
They have their own
That's,
agendas, so it kind
yeah,
of depends. Like they could be if they wanted to be,
some could be
right?
good and some could be bad. I don't know. All I know is I actually have direct memories of the archangels.
Yeah,
I remember Uriel, I remember Yahweh, and I remember there's another one that I remember interacting with. I can't I'm not
probably Michael. Was it Michael? That's the one everyone's like, Archangel Michael's here. And it's like, dude, everyone on the astral plane claims to be Archangel Michael. Like literally everybody. It's the first identity that comes forward. It's usually some false light being, and it's like, I'm Archangel Michael, bro. And so everyone's like, oh, it's Archangel Michael. Just do whatever. Yeah. They just instantly go along with it.
here's another
Anyway,
thing I want to
go
bring
ahead.
up while we're here
Yes. Go ahead.
while we're talking about healing. Here's something that I'm going to say that some people are not going to like. They're going to find it very
It's okay.
controversial.
Be real. Be real.
I don't think that there's any shaman that you can go to right now in this community or otherwise that can integrate your altars. It's not a thing.
And
If you integrated
you're
your
right.
altar,
You're right.
if you integrated your altar when you work with I could name names, I'm not going to,
It's
but
okay.
when you work with certain people, if you really integrated your altar, you would get the memories back. You would remember everything that that altar remembered. Maybe it'd take some time, maybe it'd be like coming through in a different way, but you'd remember and you'd get their abilities back and your personality would change.
Yeah.
Now, I've worked with people, and I'm not even saying they're charlatans. I'm not even saying that they're just, oh, I'm going to make up that I'm helping these. I think that they're so that we have unfortunately have a problem where people are so narcissistic, or maybe that's an exaggeration, maybe it'd
That's
be
okay.
full of themselves, where they
It's
think
true.
they actually are integrating your alters. They think
Yeah.
you actually are communicating with this being and doing all this great shit for you. And my
It's
whole
not a
thing,
thing that you can do for someone else. It's a process that a person goes through within their own journey. And it's like
yes,
you will find a lot of healers. This is a thing I complain about a lot. It's like you find a lot of people are like thinking that they're going to wave their hand and that all the entities are going to go away or some weird shit like that. And it even says it in the law of one. And a lot of people aren't really followers of it. I happen to be, but they say that the actual real healer, the true healer, doesn't actually do anything. They literally open the door for you to do it yourself. If you and I actually do believe that wholeheartedly, and I've had people book with me in meetings literally to help them with their altars with a handler right next to them that literally says I'm her partner and current person that's watching over her. And it's like the whole idea was integrate altars, and it's like we don't just snap our fingers. I was like, that's not a thing that we just do in 1 hour session. And
yeah.
so
And
anyway,
so what I
continue in a
recall,
second.
this is what I
Go ahead.
recall. I've been talking about this a lot lately. What I recall is I'm gonna do a little another thing where I hold up here. What I
It's okay.
recall
Go for it.
is in other timelines, hold up. So we open DID integration, uh, um, uh, yeah, okay. I'm bad with names and stuff. We open
It's
up
okay.
DID integration centers. So what's basically this is what happens. And from what I recall is us in this community, we're already doing it. We're already at the beginning phases of this. We're gathering dirt. Um, a lot of people say that, well, great, you guys are saying all this wild stuff is happening to you. Where's the evidence? Evidence. We need evidence.
True, true,
And,
right?
yeah, and well, we're at the very beginning stages of gathering that, and it's going to get to a point, and also the next 3 or 4 years, because all these files are going to get sealed and stuff like that. That's going to help with our case, and eventually, what's going to happen is we're going to file a lawsuit against the United States government and the Crown of England, and Basically, the lawsuit is going to state like land back type shit, like for Native Americans, like you got to give them land, like actual land they can use. They don't necessarily, doesn't mean that they have to own all of Canada or all the United States, but you like stole their good land and gave them shit land. That's not that, you know what I mean? Like, and a lot of that was through time warfare stuff because the Native Americans, we had to do stuff like water down their DNA and do all sorts of shit because they're so powerful. They had an advanced technology here in the United, or an advanced society here in the United States. They weren't all just living in teepees, but their technology was way different than us. They
Yeah,
didn't have
yeah,
cars
agreed.
or airplanes. They could walk through portals and shit. Like that's the level they were on. And through time travel, we erased that and made them just like normal. Like
Right.
they like that's something that they lost. And so when all these files get unsealed, they're going to be a very big part of this. And that part, there's a part of Canada near Winnipeg that technically still belongs to the Ojibwe people,
Yeah.
and they're going to be in on this lawsuit. And from what I remember from other timelines, is so they got pushed to Shoal Lake, which I think is called Yellowhead now. They call
Hmm.
it Yellowhead in this is the town that the Ojibwe people live there. It's something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I might be saying the name wrong, but Shoal Lake, 41st Nation Ojibwe. And anyway, from what I recall is so those people, their story is they used to live in Winnipeg, and it's very fertile, very very great land. And basically, the Canadian government came in and pushed them out of their own land, and because they wanted that water, they wanted the water there. That was part of the reason why is they wanted their water, and so they pushed them off their land, and they basically pushed them to this just really crappy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not that it's not fine land, but like in a modern society,
It
it's far.
wasn't the best. Yeah, right. It was a
And
different
and
location.
and and so these people had to the Ojibwe people like us as Americans, we don't understand as much. The Native American people don't get treated as bad. Like they don't get the respect they deserve here, but in Canada, it's like they really get shit on. And
Okay. So it's
um
even worse.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's even worse. And these people, they didn't have, so when they needed to go to the grocery store, they had to go across this lake, Shoal Lake. They had to go across the lake. So they either had to take boats or they had to go across when it was frozen if it was the winter, and there'd be, or and the kids would have, it's just a terrible situation.
I feel
And
you. Yeah.
this way, the situation with the running water is screwed up. It just doesn't have the infrastructure that they deserve. Is basically what I'm getting at. They don't have their own grocery store, hence them having
Yeah.
to cross the lake. And so the idea is that, and I've actually reached out to them, but I think I kind of freaked them out a little bit. I reached out to some of them, and I need to reattempt again, and maybe not just reach out to one guy, reach out to multiple people from the Ojibwe Nation. But I basically like what from what I recall, what it is once they get in on this lawsuit, it's like, okay, how do we get resources to these people on Shoal Lake, to where they can, because they think it's to the point now they want to live there. They don't want to live.
Right. Right.
That's where they live
It's what
now.
they're used to. It's their,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So there's certain types of information that are going to come out that it's going to somehow reveal or clear up that process in some way. Is that what you're saying?
basically, we're gonna work together where they need a school, like a high school, because they have like I think a elementary school and a middle school. But then if their kids want to go to high school, they got to go to Winnipeg. Well, we need to make sure their kids can go to high school there if they want. We need to build a high school there, and we need to get a grocery store there, and we need to give them like all running water that's clean and drinkable and electricity and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And one of the ways we do that is like, well, how do you just all of a sudden just funnel all this money into this community and help them stand on their own two legs again? Opening up that DID, one of the first DID treatment centers, just a little bit off the way from the town, because
Yeah.
they obviously probably don't want it right in the town. All these super soldier fucking people, like it's kind of a freaky thing. They might want it not right in their town,
I
but
feel you.
like yeah, from what I recall, we actually work with them, and
Okay.
they're very much so like let's do this kind of thing. Like, and I remember that it's like I actually end up moving to Shoal. This is another timelines. I really hope it happens in this timeline. I end up moving to Shoal Lake. I get a house. I get lots of money once because they owe me money for all the shit they did to me. So I
Oh,
get
oh yeah. I hope
yeah,
so. I hope so.
yeah. So and I remember
Reparations, right?
I get a house and stuff, but I
Yeah.
decide
That's
I
cool.
think I say that I'm going to do this for 10 years. I'm going to do this for a decade because I don't
Okay.
want to do it. It's not fun, but I have to do it. So I become a DID integration specialist. And from what I recall, the first DID integration specialists at that clinic are ET. They're not human. And it takes these ET to teach us how to do it because we don't remember how anymore. We don't even, it's a process that's totally foreign to
Makes
us.
sense for
Like
you,
the military figured
actually.
out how to break people. They don't know how to put them back together.
Oh,
They didn't look that far ahead. And they don't, why would they need to? They want to keep us broken so they can use
that
it.
that makes a lot of sense for you. No, I mean, really, 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 really. Even if it only ends up being you being a DID reintegration specialist. And sorry to cut in there, which I guess is good because we're sort of at the time which we need to be. So anyway, but there's certain things that people will say, like I've said a bunch of times, and doing the thing that I do, certain energies will be emitted from the human body through words or body language or through the non-physical energies, and certain things really hit. And I think that is a very tangible timeline for you, as is working more dedicatedly with intuitive ability. Like we said on your channel, you are very you have a lot, there's so much there, and I know that you know this in your own way. We're all at different stages of unlocking it. Some are devoted to it, some are going like, we're all in different stages of it, but I could see you working a lot within those areas, within multidimensionality, within the deprogramming and programming of selves. And I guess with that, I'm going to ask the final question, which maybe that's an awkward segue, but this is the question, kind of, the one that I was saving for last. And maybe it's because it's your YouTube channel as well, because your YouTube channel is Disclosure Now. For those of you guys that don't know, and we'll be putting the link out there so you guys can check him out, and please subscribe to his channel. But um, is 2024 a year of quote unquote disclosure? Will we ever have quote unquote disclosure? Are we disclosure?
We're the
Quote
disclosure.
unquote. Go
I
ahead.
believe that we
It's for
like
you.
this from what I recall, like this lawsuit, like it's very like from the ground up.
Yeah.
And I remember visiting my mom in another timeline. You know what I mean? I'm visiting my mom and she's watching the news and they're talking about Montauk. I remember that and talking about the tribunal and all that stuff. And from what I recall, yeah, 2024 is a big year. A lot of stuff happens, but it doesn't blow the lid off. But I
Right.
think 2028 is a big year. And between 2028 and 2032, a lot of stuff happens from what I recall. But
Feels
I am
like
one of the people that hates saying this is what's going to happen in the future because the future is not written. It's not solidified. If it was, there wouldn't be time corporations trying to change it all the time.
right? We would
So
have no need for such, right? Absolutely.
exactly. So the future isn't written. It really is up to you where you're gonna end up in the future, and us as a collective conscious entity or whatever you want to call it, like humanity,
Yeah.
like it's up to us where we end up. And I just try to remind people remind people that they took us from ourselves, they took our power from ourselves, and um a lot of this healing and claiming that power back is like reliving trauma, and that's kind of the only way you can like digest it is like remembering it and dealing with it in that way. But I want to remind people, and I guess end on like a positive note, is like the amazing thing about this is like we really can take our power back. Like
Yeah.
you have something, like if you're in these programs, you have something very valuable to these people that they took for themselves, that you could have that for you and use that for you. And I think that's really powerful. And I think that once we once we start stepping into this, that it's the sky is the limit. And I don't want to claim either too like what the whole DID integration thing, like I'm sure you can on some level integrate your level alters on your own, but it's kind of like you said, if people are doing that, if there are people out there integrating the alters without the help of like an ET and like a special clinic and like literal machines and shit like that that help you with it, like
Well,
you're
those will certainly
you're doing
help. Those will certainly help. But it's
yeah, those
almost
would
like,
certainly help.
yeah,
But anybody that's like, oh, I'm integrating my alters, that's being honest and they're not lying about it and they're not, or they don't have a big head and an ego and they're anybody who's actually doing that, they're doing that themselves. That's
yeah,
inner work. No one else, you can't like talk to somebody and have them do like
I agree.
QT kind of stuff and then your alters are integrated. No, it doesn't work that way. It's so much more complicated. And dare I say, from what I remember, integrating alters is extremely painful. That's what I remember. It's not fun. It's like taking a
Yeah.
shit though. Well, it's like taking a like a when you didn't eat enough fiber, I guess. Not every shit feels this way, but like it's like taking like some really uncomfortable
I
like
feel you. Yeah, it's like
bad food and or some maybe it wasn't bad, but it was just like spicy, and you're like, oh man, this has got to get out of my body.
no,
It's
it
kind of
makes sense.
like
There's a
integrating altars
pain in
is
it
like
leaving the
that.
body. Yeah.
Yeah, integrating altars is like it's kind of uncomfortable what you're doing, but it also sort of feels good. And then when it's done, you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
great. That's what
Yeah.
it's like, what I recall. And no, you can't just get it through a phone call with somebody who calls himself a shaman. I think it's a lot deeper than that. And that's just my opinion. And I know that I'm probably gonna ruffle some feathers with that, but like
No,
some
dude, I agree with you, and I'm a person that does this work where literally this is the only work that I literally do on a professional level. And I'm saying, yes, absolutely, 100% that is correct. It is not a wave your hand Zoom call and, I make some sounds into your body, and guess what? All your problems are gone. And oh, and now you're in the secret space program. Congratulations. It's nothing, it's never, you know what I mean? It's never been that. But we're in a soul group right now where a couple people have created that illusion. And so we think like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go, recover all my memories by getting a session with so and so. And you can get a lot of stuff, but anyway, watch
I
out. I'll
haven't
go
even
on a
done
rant
that
on
yet.
that one
I haven't
forever.
even done that yet. Like I have
What?
not gone to a QHHT. I've never done any. These are all my memories. Nobody held my hand and guided me to
That's a
make.
good sign. That's a really good sign. And I
I do
pray that you
want to do
do.
it. In fact, you talked about Drago and how great he is, and I'm going to be in Florida next year, and so my plan is to hopefully do it
Please
with
do it if you can.
Drago.
I was a person
Or
who
is it
like
Drago or Drago? Am I saying his name wrong?
I know him as Drago. Maybe he'll watch this, maybe he won't, but I know him as Drago. But anyway, I was a person that was not super drawn to QHAC, kind of like you. Everything that I had put back together was through my own experience and through what I had discovered. And so I think it's one of those things that will reach you when the time is right. And if your soul's getting you toward going to one or finding a person, you'll just know. You'll be like, it's time for me to do that thing. Because I could say for me, man, it was a soul confirming experience. I will probably do it again in the future when, the heart calls for it. But I think it's gonna unlock a lot for you. And I guess maybe with that, in terms of people that would want to get a hold of you, people that want to learn about your experiences, people that want to maybe take advantage of events that you're going to be doing. Because as I understand, you're going to be down here in Florida in the coming year. Where can they find you? Where can we subscribe to you? Yeah.
Okay,
What
so the
can we
most
go ahead.
immediate place to find me is Facebook, Arkheim Ra Wood. And that's the best place to communicate with me. I have an email, arkheimra@gmail.com, but unfortunately it's full of like spam and crap. And just in this day and age, people are like, oh, Facebook's like CIA, da, 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 da. Like, yeah, Google's watching you too. It doesn't matter. Like, I use Facebook
Right? Oh yeah, yeah.
and
It's
everybody uses it. So I'm using Facebook. That's usually the best way to get a hold of me. And one thing that I'm realizing more and more is like there's like 80 million people like hitting me up every day to talk to me, and I can't keep up with it. So I am going to be starting a Patreon. I just don't know how to do it. Like I just feel like I literally need people to pay me for my time because like I don't have the time and energy to communicate.
honestly, that's a very rightful thing. A lot of people are going to give you shit. They're going to transmit some kind of like, oh, you think you have a right to charge for something that should be free or this or that. You're going to encounter a lot of those people. And I think that's a thing everybody has to work through, but we have a right. I think when you're putting yourself on the line and you're presenting yourself publicly on a full-time basis and your knowledge becomes the thing that you're giving to the world, you have a right to
Yeah, like I
then
have
be
people that hit
asked.
me up. I have people that hit me up on my messenger like, hey, like and they'll just like ask me like like weird questions about like space or like my life and the programs, and I'm like, I've had to message people and be like, dude, I am not a secret space program encyclopedia that you can just use like Google to find out what space is like. Like I'm an actual person, and all these lifetimes that I lived were extremely traumatic, and I need to put myself in a whole headspace and like chill out, like you know what I mean, and do a
Yeah,
whole
it's like I'm not
ritual.
just instantly tuned in where I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, no, I.
Yeah, exactly. And the people that have the memories are alters. And when I go into those memories, it can be painful. And it's like there's a reason why these alters were created through trauma, right? So it's like me keeping myself safe for myself type thing is what
No,
really
that
what
makes
alters
sense.
are. It's like a self-protection mechanism. And people basically don't realize when they're asking me like about memories and stuff is like they're asking me to just tear down that wall. Now, I will
Yeah.
admit, sometimes people message me and I instantly recognize them either physically because I recognize their face or energetically, and I'm always more responsive to those people.
Yeah.
But sometimes I might not know who the fuck you are, and I don't owe you shit. Sorry, I don't owe you anything.
It's
Like so
okay.
that's why I think I should make a Patreon because if random people that I don't even know that I have no connection to in the programs want to have a conversation with me, well, it's not like I just owe that to people.
I
People
think
that
that's a
I know,
rightful thing. Yeah.
people that I know that maybe that like I have connections with in the programs, I kind of feel like I do owe it to them. But if I don't know you, then I don't feel like I do.
Create
And
a Patreon, do a monthly Q&A. Do a monthly Q&A. Say, look, here's the thing. You can, it's only $5. You can come in and ask me anything you
yeah,
want. We're going to meet this
exactly.
day a month and we
And
can talk about everything.
it's not like if you're broke, there's a paywall. Sorry, you
No,
can't
I
talk.
get you.
It's just an easy. It's
We
just
are the exact same way. It's like
yeah.
we will always let people in.
Yeah, but it's just like, like if you really like a real easy way to do it is just subscribe to the Patreon. You're
Yeah.
literally paying me to answer your questions. Like I have to do it at that point. Like, you know
I
what I mean? Like,
I
so
I sincerely hope that you do it. I think one of the things we will notice for those of us that are coming into the next mission stage as we enter this year of 2024 is that people will be called to step up or offer themselves in new ways. And, granted, 2024 is also an 8 year. And when we look at the processes of creation of abundance, it's a thing that at times we have to become willing to claim for ourselves. We have to be willing to stand up and say, I have something of value and I'm not going to allow any form of shame or programming or from the outer world stop me from saying, you know what, actually, I would like to receive something for what I'm doing. And so I'm totally behind you on that. I would say make a Patreon and start offering yourself to people, and it'll take your life in a really cool direction. A lot of us, people that watch
eventually
our
I
channel, know it's a big thing for us as well. But yeah,
and
go ahead.
eventually I hope to be doing remote viewing stuff and
Nice.
psychic intuitive work and everything like that. Because as you've been saying,
We definitely will.
but like my whole thing right now is like I've seen it's like I told you, like some of these guys that are working with people, it's not even that they're charlatans that are like, yes, dollar signs. They actually think they're doing the shit, but they're just full of themselves. They're not doing
Yes, I agree.
yeah. So like I
Trust me,
personally
I agree.
never wanted to be that guy, right? So when it gets to the point where like I'm like, all right, $30 a session or whatever it is that I charge, I'm gonna feel like it's okay for like gonna feel confident in my services that I'm not just
That's
bullshitting.
very, very wise. I believe that wholeheartedly. And the way that we keep ourselves in the shape through which people are, able to access spirit is by constant self-work. And you're going to see a lot of people that try to do this work and they only last for a few months because some blockage or something comes up in their life and they cannot continue. Then you'll see other people that start doing this path and within 6 months to a year, they get a weird sickness or a strange cycle of trauma reactivates in their life. And that's because they didn't cultivate the energy body. It's like, anyway, watch out. I'm gonna go on a rant next, and we've been here over 2 hours. So, but
Yeah,
I
well, hey,
absolutely
have me
see
back
that
on
for
the
you,
show
man.
this
Oh,
two
we
hours.
will.
Have
Sir,
me back. It's been great talking to you.
we
And
will definitely do it again. I have some plans. This is a 7 year for me, so I'm supposed to be networking and studying and working with people. And it's also an 8 year collectively. And from my understanding, when we join those two things together, it creates our most like benevolent outcomes. And so for me, I'm supposed to be networking with people right now. But yes, we absolutely will. In the meantime, I want to thank everybody for watching this. I want to thank you, Arkheim Raw, for showing up and being honestly, I mean this so sincerely, the most authentic and raw and bizarre and weird and totally real version of yourself. I'm a person that thrives on those things. So thank you for sharing that aspect of yourself. It's been really good to get to know you and have this chat. I look forward to doing more. For those of you guys that are watching, please do head over to Disclosure Now on YouTube, right?
disclosure now with an exclamation point.
Disclosure
And
Now
I'm
with the
not
exclamation.
shadow banned yet. When you look that up, you usually actually find me. So
Cool. We are. We're definitely shadow banned. Anyway, but for those of you guys, check him out on Disclosure now and keep a lookout. I think there's some events and things coming in 2024. In the meantime, thank you for finding us down here at the multidimensional trailer park. Please hit the like button on the way out and subscribe if you have not done so. We are definitely under heavy shadow banning, but we just keep going. We're like this weird force. It's like no one cares, but we just keep rolling year after year. And so thank you to those forces of higher dimensional energy that continue to sustain and supply and guide my existence. It's an honor serving alongside you. In the meantime, we'll see everybody in the future live from the multidimensional trailer park. It's 2024, so I guess we got to get our shit together. We'll see you later. Boom.